Every player is very enthusiastic about immersing themselves in the game on their computer or phone. Few people can imagine that the future everyone dreams of can come true very easily. There is a new virtual game where you don't need manual control. Anyone who wants to get a game helmet leaves contact information on the official website. This game helmet is the key that unlocks the gate to another world. It is this other world that has the name Underworld for players. While the protagonist was 1 kilometer away from the newcomer's village, at this time there was an active game battle going on at this location. The main character's name is Zhang Xiao. In the game, he is a swordsman. The guy thought to himself that the weapon that was found in the village of newcomers was worthless. The guy was fighting against a greenish gnome named Spirit of Poverty. Zhang saw the gnome and decided to immediately attack it with his sword. The protagonist decided to improve his skills. He acquired a spell to strengthen his armor and fire weapons. Zhang was very angry that some ordinary mob was making fun of an experienced player like him. He swung his sword. The protagonist struck a successfully magical gnome with his sword. Very quickly, Zhang chopped apart the poverty spirit ball. He was very happy. The dying gnome said he wasn't making fun of the guy and said his name was Spirit of Poverty. Zhang said he knew the dwarf wasn't laughing at him. He was just sad at heart. The Spirit of Poverty appears on the first floor of the King of Hell. If you kill him, you will get 300 to 500 gold coins and crystals. The system reported that the guy was able to kill 10 poverty spirits. He got the title, ridiculously poor for it. The guy didn't like that title. Suddenly, the protagonist was struck by fire lightning straight from the sky. Zhang was very angry and surprised because someone had launched a stealth attack against him. The other players came over and looked at Zhang and said that he had a good catch. They saw an amethyst stone lying next to him. Zhang began to collect the treasures he had gotten. He thought that chopping up the dwarf was the best solution. The protagonist turned around. He noticed that a group of players had approached him. The leader of Team A told his partner that fly meat still counts as meat. Another player said that he rose to level 10 in just a couple of days. Zhang realized that PC players were coming at him. These players would often go and kill other players for equipment and gold. One player said that the main character's head belongs to him. Another player said that they would share all the gold coins equally. Zhang launched a smoke bomb. He yelled to the players that they didn't have the qualifications to rip his head off. One player saw the main character running away and thought annoyed to himself that he spent 100 gold coins to buy some smoke. Running away, Zhang remembered that he had bought a special thing that saved his life. Suddenly, the protagonist was struck from the back by a blue fire beam. The protagonist felt that he was wounded. He could not understand what had happened. Zhang was struck by another player using a special skill called Heart Chitrella. The protagonist realized that the shooter had already managed to unlock his special skill, and it's no wonder it happened like that. The player approached the lying protagonist and said then the weak roosters should die obediently and not cause others difficulty. The player swung around and told the protagonist that they would take his gold coins and amethyst from him. The dead protagonist angrily thought to himself that many days of hard work had gone to waste and decided to take revenge on the players when he became stronger. Zhang felt an intense pain. He realized that when a player is killed in a game, it feels as if the real body is also dying. When a player dies in the game, he goes offline for an hour. It can be a punishment or a precautionary measure. Zhang decided to rest for a while. Suddenly, the guy was awakened by girls' voices calling him His Highness. The guy saw 2 girls in front of him, and they were looking at him very carefully. Zhang was surprised. One of the girls said very cheerfully that she was going to bring a mirror. The guy couldn't understand what had happened, because he lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment. He didn't understand where he was. The girl held up a mirror to the protagonist and asked if he was happy with his new hairstyle. Zhang was amazed to see himself in the mirror. He was like a demonic man with horns. The guy got really scared. He asked where he was and why he looked like that. The girl across from him was also worried. The surrounding girls bowed and said that he lived in a palace called Yama. The protagonist remembered King Yama's palace. He thought he had gotten to the palace from the newcomer village. The girl bowed to the guy and called him King of the Pit. She asked him not to be angry with her and to punish her if necessary. Zhang was surprised. The protagonist realized that now he can move mountains and do whatever he wants. Zhang looked at the girl standing in front of them. He stroked her face. The main character told the girl to take off some of her clothes. The boy was happy. He had waited a long time for this day. He remembered that when he was dying, he felt it very real. Zhang decided that the other feelings would be real too. Unexpectedly, the protagonist was distracted from his dreams by a girl approaching from the side. The girl reported that the Emperor spirits from the 4 sides of the world have arrived. Northern Spirit Emperor wants to give the protagonist data on the game Underground Kingdom. Zhang looked at the girl and noticed that she was even more beautiful and hotter. The protagonist began analyzing the data report from the launch. The guy looked at the girls around him and thought that didn't sound like something an NPC would say. A purple gnome walked in and shouted menacingly for everyone present to stand up. The protagonist, accompanied by a girl, entered the room solemnly and silently. The dwarf commanded that the Lord of Hell had arrived. Zhang sat down at the table and the other guests were seated around him. The girl stood beside him. The boy sat silently surrounded by the other guests. He thought to himself that the atmosphere was very strange. The girl sternly and surprisingly asked where the devil emperors of the 4 countries were and why only the assistants had come. The East Devil's aides said that their emperors were very busy, so they sent aides. He also added that the Lord of Hell was sitting idle in the palace every day. The protagonist said that the case is very urgent and need to start a meeting about himself. The guy was scared he did not understand what was happening. The guests who came in looked at the Lord of Hell very carefully and with astonishment. One messenger noted to himself that the Lord of Hell was not like himself today. He thought that the Lord had become even more calculating. At the same moment, a hologram near the conference table lit up. It has been reported that only 3 months have passed since the beginning of the game test, and already 3 million users have entered the Underworld. When a player is wounded in battle, he loses energy, which goes to the afterlife. In this case, after injuries, the player feels only fatigue, his life is not threatened. According to the power qualification, the fighting ability of monsters increases, and therefore they can continue to collect the energy of higher-level players. When a player kills a monster, it is revived and can be reintroduced into a new game at any time. Already, more than 3% of players have penetrated the 3rd layer of the Underworld. More than half of all players are still on the 1st layer of the Underworld in the tongue-pulling prison. The girl explained that the aforementioned information was a summary of the current situation. The first 5 layers of Hell were under the protection of the Eastern Devil Emperor. She asked that his representative report the situation. The representative asked that the Lord of Hell himself specify what he wanted to know. There was a long pause. The protagonist was silent and everyone else looked at him. The representative got angry. He thought that the protagonist was silent because he wanted to intimidate him. The girl thought that what the Eastern Devil Emperor's assistant sees is a very intimidating pressure. In his heart, Zhang Xiao was very much frightened. He could not believe that he had entered the Underworld yet. Zhang thought to himself with fear that he was already in a real hell surrounded by demons. The guy realized that his body was that of a real Lord of Hell and not some fictional character. The girl looked at the protagonist and thought that something was wrong with him today. The spokesman said that if there were no questions, he would start preparing for departure. He also added that in the tongue-wrenching prison, there are many rookie players. The Devil Emperor has decided to send him to reap the harvest in Peach Valley. Zhang interrogated the surrounding people whether harvesting the players' energy really wouldn't harm their lives. The young lord then asked why some players had fallen into oblivion after gathering their energy. A spokesman for Frightened said that he didn't know what the protagonist was talking about. He also added that the Lord of Hell designed the game himself. The girl said excitedly that the Overlord had warned many times that it was not necessary to absorb much energy to avoid being feared by living people. The rep got angry. He jumped up on the table. He didn't like his girls. The demon general ran across the table towards the girl and asked her strictly how dare she yell at him. The protagonist is frightened and alert. He realized that his mate is in danger. The protagonist got detailed information about the Demon of Destruction's weak spot was his knee. Zhang was glad that he could see the characteristics and weaknesses of other creatures. The girl saw the Destruction Demon approaching her and prepared to defend herself. The girl used magic to stop the Destruction Demon's attack. The girl was able to grab the demon, quickly disarm it, and throw it on the table. The girl told the demon menacingly that he was a threat to the Overlord and must die. The protagonist commanded the girl that they were now closing the meeting. The protagonist thought the problem was very serious, and he didn't know what to do next. The girl asked where he was going. Zhang explained that he was just going for a walk, and asked the girl if there was anything else planned. The girl looked at the Lord carefully and said that he should bathe. The protagonist came to the bathing place. All his maids were there. Zhang saw many of his maids swimming in the pool. They told him he had done a good job. The Lord said cheerfully that he didn't labor at all. The boy noticed to himself that he saw in the girls, instead of their characteristics, only some strange numbers. A girl came in and told the other maids to help His Majesty inside. The girl told the Lord that he had been working hard lately, and that he should rest properly after bathing. From the sheer excitement, the main character even collapsed, fainting. The girl called out to the guy. She threw the towel away and wanted to go over to him. Zhang looked at the girl walking towards him. He kept wondering if he was dreaming. The protagonist was happy that he could say goodbye to his virginity in the game after all. The system gave a message that it was bringing Zhang Xiao back into the game. The guy woke up in the game location. The system added that the protagonist had been resurrected in the village of newcomers. The main character was walking together with his brother Liu Zifeng. The brother asked about the game Underworld. Zhang replied that he did not trust the game. The protagonist told his brother not to play as the helmet can emit radiation that can damage his health. The brother replied that closed testing had recently started and he didn't want to miss it. A couple days later, the protagonist saw his brother being taken away by doctors. The medic reported that Liu Zifeng was examined by the doctor several times, that the medic did not find the cause of the coma. The doctor said we should wait until the boy wakes up on his own. The mother said very sadly that she had told her son many times not to play, but he did not listen. The protagonist thought excitedly that his brother had been wearing a helmet all day, and he didn't even know it. Jung wondered why his brother had fallen into a coma because of the game. He decided to find out. The protagonist definitely decided that he must find out the truth. He confidently put on the helmet. Jung was transported to the newcomer village. The protagonist realized that the game's creators were after people's life force. The guy remembered that in the networks, players write about fatigue, and when a player dies in the game, he is forcibly disconnected. The protagonist stopped to think about something very important. Jung couldn't understand why he wasn't disabled after he was killed during the game. A girl was running toward him from behind. The protagonist noticed the girl speeding up and easily jumped over him. Jung watched in amazement as the girl flew over him with great ease. In flight, the girl looked at Jung with displeasure and told him that he was in her way. The girl jumped over the guy, landed, and ran on. Some of the players said that the girl was able to acquire some nice gear in the form of wandering speedwalker shoes. The player said that the ammunition the girl had was only bought by a couple of people. In response, the other guy said the girl had to be rich. At this time, the main character remembered her white panties. He was still thinking about the girl. Jung decided that now was not the time for him to be distracted, and he needed to get down to business. A level 1 game savage was running through the forest in the vicinity of the newcomer village. The protagonist ran up and very quickly cut off the head of the savage with his sword. Jung decided that he now needed to rush to the Peach Blossom Valley and stop that guy. The guy remembered the Demon of Destruction saying that he would go to Peach Valley in 3 days to harvest energy. Jung received a message that he had received the Savage Bone reward. Jung decided that if he went further into the Underworld, he could get more information. The protagonist wanted to save, but the system informed him that there was an unknown error. The guy realized that there was no way he could get out of the current game now. Jung thought that the bug must be beyond the Destruction Demon's expectation. The protagonist thought to himself that it was very exciting for him to speculate about a plot to overthrow the Underworld. At this time, the protagonist heard a girl screaming quite nearby. The protagonist noticed swamp demons rising up around the girl. Jung noticed that the rich girl he had seen before was standing in front of him. He thought that the dungeon absorbed the player's life energy, but also gave them the opportunity to donate. The girl struck the swamp demon with all her might with a strong kick of the ball. Suddenly, a level 3 swamp demon appeared in front of the girl. Jung thought that the girl had never met such demons before. The girl could not understand why the demons did not take damage. The girl's name was Sheng Hao. She thought that now, in his short of money and equipment, the guy thought he should make Sheng owe him. The demons began to surround the girl from all sides, and it was difficult for her to fight back. Jung remembered that he had an ice crystal that he could use right now. This crystal could turn any weapon into ice for any length of time. After that, the protagonist confidently activated his ice crystal. Immediately upon activation, the protagonist rushed to help the girl. Jen shouted angrily to the demons to let the girl go immediately. Then the main character heard someone calling for him to wake up. The girl asked Jung if he was all right. The maid said that they were very scared. The protagonist asked excitedly if the demon emperors had already arrived. The maid replied that they had already left. The lord became indignant. He asked who had let them go. The girls fell to their knees and asked Jung not to be so hot. One of the maids asked if the protagonist was doing well and if Dr. Jumin should be called in for a checkup. Jung said there was no need to call a doctor. He added that the maids should kneel. The main character thought something strange had happened to his body. He even thought it was a prank by the girls. The protagonist began to smite the swamp demons with his sword. Upon impact, the swamp demons were frozen in large ice crystals. Jung confidently shattered the ice crystals with swamp demons inside. The Showa girl looked at the protagonist with surprise and admiration. Very quickly, the effects of the soul ice crystal ended. The demons began to come to life. In the end, it turns out there are a bunch of swamp demons around the main character. Showa decided to help the guy with a spell. She jumped up with the crystal in her hand. Once the spell was activated, all surrounding demons were frozen in large crystals. The girl said she wouldn't have worked too hard if she knew the ice would work against demons. The guy drew his sword from the ice crystal. He thought the girl had defeated the demons with the power of money. Girl asked the protagonist how he knew about the effectiveness of ice attacks against swamp monsters. Jung reported that pamphlets are available in the beginner's village that describe how to defeat beginner mobs. The Shan girl looked at the manual and said with surprise that she had no idea she had bought it herself. Shang asked where a large cluster of such mobs could actually be found. Jang asked the girl if she had any tips. The guy said he didn't buy it. He just took one look when the NPC was showing it. The main character cheerfully said that the head is the main source of his strength. He remembers everything at a glance. Girl Sean looked admiringly at the guy, thought he was really cool. The guy turned around and started to walk away. He advised the girl not to waste her very cool equipment. The girl excitedly shouted after the boy to join her. Jung rejoiced to himself. The girl said that she had been in the game for 3 days, but could not get through the forest that surrounds the newcomer's village. She asked the guy to go through the forest with her. Zhang told the girl that he was used to acting alone, and did not need a burden. He then asked Xiao how she would repay him. The girl said the guy could take from her any item she bought at the pledge village. The guy asked the girl, wondering why she wanted such strange things. Xiao grabbed the guy's hand and asked insistently for him to take her with him. The girl thought to herself angrily that if she had a choice, she wouldn't have asked the guy. Zhang asked excitedly to the girl if she was in reality a hairy man. Xiao replied that she was not. Suddenly, the boy and girl felt the ground go away from under their feet. Xiao asked if the earthquake had started. The protagonist, along with his girlfriend, noticed a huge red ray descending from the heavens to the earth. Zhang thought to himself that everything happened in this time and place. Then the guy grabbed the girl's hand and told her to go with him. The guy remembered that there was a rare elite dungeon near the newcomer village. It would be very good if there was a person with a weapons depot. The protagonist, leading the girl with him, decided to himself that it was worth trying to fight. There were several players standing around the entrance to the legendary epic cave. A player named Super Savage said that this time they would definitely clean out the dungeon. Suddenly, the players notice some kind of threat. They are being attacked by turbocharged bananas. As a result, the opponent takes sliding damage. Afterward, all the players were brought down to the ground by an extensive banana peel. One of the players shouted that the opponent used a banana peel. At that time, the protagonist and the girl were running away together. Zhang, along with the Xiao girl, ran up to the portal it had temporarily closed. One of the players yelled out upset that they missed out on a dungeon that opens every 10 days. Another player said that the main character and the girl don't have very high levels. Because of that, they wouldn't be able to pass the dungeon. He suggested to wait for Zhang and Xiao to come out and then do away with them. Super Dick said that if their opponents passed, they could take their loot. Very close to the newcomer village, there are 5 divided dungeons. The first 4 dungeons have low difficulty and no special rewards. The luck dungeon is completely luck-based. In this dungeon, monsters appear randomly and proper weapons are required. The guy explained that all the weapons of the players from the newbie village are unsuitable. For this reason, he teamed up with other players, since there can be at least 3 people to go through the dungeons and they have different weapons for this. The player said that the protagonist along with the girl will definitely lose in their dungeon. Xiao said surprised that this was the first time she saw a monster with such a high level. The girl added that the game was done very well along with the character design. Zhao thought that his companion would be very frightened if she knew that there were real demons in the game. The guy told the girl that if they wanted to go through with it, they needed to push back on the restraining features. He suggested that the girl split the experience in half after passing. Zhang commanded the girl to concentrate fully on his instructions. The protagonist decided to use the flaming sword. It deals 100% damage to the defense of the golden element. Zhang, full of confidence with sword in hand, rushed at the monster to strike it down. After hitting the monster, Zhang said that this weapon was much better than his last sword. After that, a new dangerous monster appeared behind the protagonist. The protagonist shouted to the girl to hand him the Thunder Vine quickly. Xiao excitedly launched 2 round boxes at the protagonist. The protagonist looked at the monster that clutched at his sword and noted that it had very great speed. Thunder Vine deals 100% earth element damage. After defeating the current monster, the protagonist along with the girl have traveled 2/3 of the dungeon. The protagonist wondered if he had any idea what the third monster would be like. Zhang felt his feet and his sword being bound by large blocks of ice. The guy noticed an ice girl standing in front of him. Her attribute was water. Xiao noticed the main character in a large block of ice. She got very excited. Unexpectedly, the protagonist was able to break up the ice block with his own strength. Zhang said that his only armor appeared to be earth armor. Such armor gave him the ability to be immune to water attacks. The protagonist punched the ice girl in the chest with all his might with his fist. Zhen thought happily to himself that he was very pleased to have impressed the last demon girl like that. The system gave a message that the protagonist had successfully passed a test called 3 Lucky Ones. Zhang was rewarded with 150,000 experience points. He realized that he had reached the 7th level. Also, the rush of the protagonist was also greatly enjoyed by Xiao's girlfriend. The protagonist gained access to new weapons, a quick blade, and a vanishing ring along with equipment in the form of the Phoenix Crown. Zhang said he would only take the blade so the girl could take 2 items. Xiao said that the Phoenix Crown was part of the set and she wanted to buy the other parts. The main character said that the gear they found in this dungeon is not for sale anywhere. The Xiao girl decided to improve her characteristics first. The guy asked the girl if she wanted to put all her soul points into courage. Xiao replied that she would, since she was a swordsman. The guy told the girl that she doesn't know anything about games. He decided to explain to the girlfriend the level up in this game. Zhang said that each player starts with 100 experience points. Gradually, more and more points will be needed to improve the level. Warrior classes get 10 points each. For determination is also given points. Aura is given 1 point and equates to 10 elements of magic resistance. There are also rewards for feeling agile in the form of points and speed improvements. The Guardian receives his reward of 1 point and an improvement in defense. Only 1 point can be added for improving the charm level. Jung added that players gain 3 points of soul power when they level up. The guy decided to immediately summarize from the information he said. The guy told the girl that although she is a fencer, she needs to consider other qualities to be well-rounded. Xiao told the boyfriend that it was all very complicated for her. The boyfriend told the girlfriend that she could pump whatever she wanted. Then Zhang decided that he needed to focus on the fighting power to level 15. He decided to wait a little longer before he started to pump the pit. The system displayed a message that Zhang Xiao had obtained the 8th level of swordsman. The girl said that her attack and defense are better than the main characters even though her level is lower than Zhao's. Zhao and Xiao came out of the dungeon. The boy told the girl that they had to hurry. Xiao asked where they were going. Suddenly the girl and the guy felt like they couldn't walk. They realized it was an ambush and the protagonist was attacked by other players. Zhao immediately realized that it was time to fight off the attacking players. The protagonist was able to fend off 2 attackers very quickly with his sword. The girl was very much surprised by such a great success of the main character. The players were very surprised at how Zhao was able to slash their weapons. The player noticed that the protagonist along with the girl were able to pump up after clearing the dungeon. The Super Savage said they couldn't defeat the protagonist and the girl and asked for protection. One player started to run away. He was a mage and knew he was slow and had the lowest defense. Zhao shouted to his opponents that if they attacked him, he would not hold back. Swinging his sword, the protagonist ran after the opponents. The players started to run away. Xiao called the players weaklings and shouted after them not to run away. The protagonist asked the girl what she was going to do next. He asked if she would follow him. After thinking for a bit, Xiao replied that their duo was very good so she would go after the protagonist. Zhao said that they needed to hurry as they needed to reach the Peach Blossom Valley before dusk the next day. The main character told the cheerful girl that he would slow down a bit and she better keep up. Suddenly the girl's body began to undergo a serious, incomprehensible change. After all the alterations, her breasts appeared to be covered by a leather corset. Then extensive leather straps appeared on the girl Xiao's legs and body. Xiao told the guy that he was the one who needed to worry about whether he could keep up with her. The girl was dressed in a Night Ghost Oregon outfit that increased her movement speed by 15%. The protagonist glared at the girl's breasts, and in doing so, he fell silent. Xiao thought the guy was smitten with her beauty. She remembered that she had chosen this outfit very carefully at the store. The guy asked the girl why she bought an assassin's suit if she was a swordsman. He added that Xiao could have bought boots or an amulet to speed up her movement. Zhao added that assassins can increase their magic resistance. The girl told him to shut up and follow her. The guy thought to himself that the girl was mad at him because of the failed seduction. The protagonist remembered his maids in the Underworld and realized that he had seen much more. Zhao was surprised that all the players were going to the Peach Blossom Valley. Xiao replied that news had spread that rare items were appearing there. Very soon, the protagonist along with the girl Xiao arrived at the place. The protagonist said they were standing in a valley of peach blossoms. The girl replied that they should hurry before the others gathered everything. The main character asked for a break. The girl replied that if they didn't go now, they would be left with bare heels. The guy thought that most high-level players should be in the valley right now with his poor equipment. He decided to wait and watch first. Xiao asked the guy angrily if he didn't need new items. Zhao said that they only had random equipment and couldn't use it effectively. The girl told the guy that she would try to find the store and look at the map. Xiao looked at the map and said they were very lucky as there was a store at the foot of the mountain nearby. The store clerk asked the protagonist and the girl if they wanted to buy gear or sell resources. Xiao demanded that the shopkeeper show him everything he had in stock. The salesman opened his boxes of merchandise and told customers to look. The protagonist along with his girlfriend noticed a bunch of different goods in a drawer. The protagonist said that the vendor had a very expensive fire spell. The vendor told the guy to go back to the newcomer's village. The girl got mad. She told the salesman she was going to beat him up. At that time, Xiao looked at her account balance. She had 3 million. The girl replied that there wasn't much left. The protagonist along with the salesman were very much surprised at such an amount from the girl. The system has reported that a temporary event called Valley of the Bloodbath is starting. When players will attack monsters, there will be random rewards. Players were bored and impatiently asked where the monsters were. Some even thought that the system had tricked them. Suddenly the sky darkened and an earthquake started. The players did not understand what was happening. Just then a demon general with a huge axe suddenly popped out of the ground. The players rejoiced. They rushed at the demon hoping to get the rewards. The demon general used his axe to start striking the players who were attacking him. The demon's blows would immediately kill players and put them out of the game completely. The survivors didn't understand how players could die from a single hit, and why such a strong monster appeared in level 1. The demon continued to massively axe and destroy the players around it. Suddenly, magical things flew into the monster from behind. Someone wanted to attack it. One of the players told no one to engage in close combat as ranged attacks are more effective. An evil demon decided to pass a death sentence on one of the players and launched his axe at him. One of the girls shouted fearfully that they would lose since the demon was very strong. The players started shouting that they needed to retreat, and they scattered. The demon slammed his hands into the ground and shouted that he wouldn't give anyone a chance to escape. Immediately, the shockwave hit the girl hard. She went down. The players got frustrated. Each of them lost a lot of health, even though the attack wasn't very strong. The evil demon shouted that the next attack would kill them all altogether. Suddenly, the demon noticed a blue ball lying in front of his feet. He was surprised. Suddenly, the orb activated, and the demon found himself trapped in a shard of ice. The Shao girl shouted after the players to stop standing there and run with all her might. The girl looked after the fleeing players. She decided to attack the frozen demon with magic items. The evil demon shouted to the players that their endeavors were utterly worthless. The demon was freed from the ice. He noticed with surprise how fire was directed at him from above. The protagonist decided to attack with the fire sword demon from above. Then Zhang was also able to successfully strike the demon with his sword. The other players were very surprised that there was someone who attacked the demon. Players thought that the protagonist won because he was able to buy very expensive armor and weapons. Players rejoiced this main character is really here and it was no mirage. The evil demon jumped up and asked sternly at the guy how he dared to ambush him. The protagonist decided to himself that this time he was well prepared. He needed to finish off the demon before it could recover. Zhang struck the demon with his flaming sword, living to finish him off quickly. The protagonist used his flaming sword to deliver several crushing blows to the demon. Players were surprised that the protagonist, although a beginner, used high-level techniques. This was the 10th combination Zhang had used, each of which was double the previous one. The monster was almost finished. The guy thought to himself that if he could save a lot of players at the cost of one sword, it was worth it. Suddenly, the protagonist saw the demon begin to fully recover. The demon came back to life. The protagonist realized that the monster's health was blocked. After that, the demon with all his might hit the protagonist, who did not expect the attack. From the demon's blow, the protagonist flew far away. He could barely stay on his feet. Zhang began to recover little by little. The demon's blow failed to crush him. Players were surprised that the protagonist took a direct hit from the demon and lost little health. The protagonist was still on his knees, leaning on his sword. He thought to himself that he was getting troublesome. Suddenly, Zhang remembered the demon's characteristics and that its weak point was its knees. The protagonist decided to see if the monster's health lock would protect him when he attacked his weak spot. The demon slammed his fists into the ground with all his might. He asked the protagonist if he could take it. Zhang noticed in amazement that the demon's attack had caused serious damage to his health. The protagonist had a few seconds to recharge his energy. He decided that was enough. The demon shouted to his opponent that it would take at least 6 seconds for him to get close to him, and it was too late. Xiao's girlfriend was very excited. The other players shouted at the protagonist to run away. When there was still time to recharge energy, the protagonist rushed to attack. The demon was very surprised. He realized that the guy right now had decided to switch weapons. The evil demon thought that the guy's attacks would be useless since he wouldn't make it in time. Zhang launched an attack while activating a skill called Swift Blade. From the impact, the demon went down. At this time, ran out of time to recharge. The monster didn't understand how the protagonist was able to accelerate so quickly. The protagonist said that the blade increases his movement speed by 100%. The girl and the players standing next to her got very excited as the main character won. The evil demon realized the guy knew about his weakness. He promised he'd come back for the protagonist. The protagonist was very frightened by what he heard from the monster. Zhang realized that he had exposed himself. If the demon told King Yama about everything, the guy would be in danger. The protagonist began to quickly leave the battlefield. He led the girl Xiao with him by the hand. The girl asked the guy why he was in a hurry. The main character replied that the situation was urgent. The guy told the girl they had to find a secluded place where she could kill him. The shocked girl asked the guy why she wanted to kill her. Zhang took off his armor at the same time. The main character told the girl to call him on the phone when she got off the grid. The guy told them to meet again in the newcomer village in 3 days at midnight, and he would tell them all about it, at which time he stuck his sword into himself. A girl used a sword to kill a guy. He told her it was okay. The Xiao girl watched with consternation and shock as her sword pierced the main character. Then after a short pause, the girl took her sword out of the guy's body and threw it on the ground. Zhao said it was nothing compared to dying in real life. The guy thought that his current pain could be compared to what happens when his energy is taken away. Immediately, this same protagonist woke up in his own hellish dungeon. The protagonist woke up and came to his senses. He realized that his plan had now worked. The protagonist opened his eyes and heard one of his girls calling his name. The guy looked up and saw the big breasts of one of his girls. She had tears in her eyes. The main character didn't even immediately realize that his head was on the girl's lap. The boy became very self-conscious. He tried to get up as soon as possible. The protagonist shyly told the girl that he apologized to her for the inconvenience. The maid dutifully told the protagonist not to say that. Zhang said with a chuckle that he was a little dizzy. The maid said that the guy suddenly fainted and she supported him, otherwise he would have hit his head. The boy asked the maid to take him to the reincarnation well as soon as possible. The girl reminded him that the Lord himself had installed the well in the 9th palace of the Underworld. The protagonist demanded of the girl that she immediately take him to where there is a well of reincarnation. The maid didn't understand why the Lord of Hell helped her up and even apologized to her. After analyzing the Overlord's behavior, the girl decided that she liked it when he was like this. The guy held the girl's hand and ran with her very fast towards the target. Very soon, the protagonist along with the maid arrived at the reincarnation well in the 9th palace of the Underworld. The spirits reported that the demon of destruction had risen and left a couple minutes ago, spewing curses. The boy asked the spirits if the demon had said anything else. The spirit reported that the demon realized that someone had given away his weakness. He decided to report it to the Ghost Emperor. Immediately, Zhang commanded the girl to hurriedly run after him. At that time, the demon arrived at the harbor. The guide asked where he wanted to go. The demon general said he needed to go to the Ghost Emperor and demanded the fastest beast. The guide gave the demon the best, fastest dragon he could cross many hells in the lower world. The demon jumped up on its head. The guide wished the demon a happy journey. The boy and girl ran to the shore and saw the demon leaving. Zhang knew that if the demon got there, he would be doomed. The chief shouted after the demon that he wouldn't let him. He decided to activate the spell. The demon general turned around. He saw the protagonist and the girl on the shore. Then a spell from the protagonist walked across the water and killed the dragon. After the dragon died, the angry demon general climbed out of the water onto the shore. The demon was very surprised to see the Lord of Hell and his maid standing on the shore. The demon asked the protagonist with great surprise what it all meant. The protagonist asked the demon as calmly as possible where he was in such a hurry. The demon said that he saw something strange, and he should report it to the temperature. Zhang asked Monster who was in charge of the plan. The Lord asked the demon looking down on him as he decided to report to the Ghost Emperor. The demon replied conciliatingly that he wouldn't dare to look down on the protagonist. He also said that someone had leaked some information. The maid angrily asked the demon how dare he suspect his highness. The demon turned around and said he was leaving as he didn't have time to argue with the Lord and his maid. The protagonist has now decided to use a small weapon to stab the monster in the back. Suddenly, a huge underworld ghost sickle appeared in the hands of the protagonist. The sickle is very huge and had an eye-catching appearance. The protagonist was amazed. The demon looked at the protagonist with fear and asked what he was planning to do with such a sickle. Zhang replied with a smile that there was no need to panic. He explained that he just wanted to try this weapon. After that, the protagonist struck the monster with all his might using his sickle. The magical sickle struck the demon, chopping it completely in half. The guy thought to himself that the sickle was drawing energy instead of blood. The wounded demon asked the protagonist how he dared to attack him. He added that the Phantom Emperor would not forgive him. Zhang said cheerfully that the very presence of the demon pisses him off. The guy also said that the monster couldn't be reborn if he was killed by this weapon. The wounded demon fell exhausted into the water. He only had time to scream for the Ghost Emperor to save him. Suddenly, a huge pink tentacle headed towards the demon. A pink tentacle encircled the demon and pulled it to the side. There was no way the monster could get free. The pink tentacle began to choke the demon. He had no strength to resist. After the intense pressure from the tentacle, the demon's head completely flew off. The protagonist was very surprised. He noticed that it was his maid who killed the demon. After eliminating the monster, the girl pulled back the magical tentacle. The maid then told the overseer that she had been reckless and that he could punish her. Zhang told the girl that she had done a good job. The girl thought to herself that this was the first time His Highness had praised her like that. The protagonist decided that for now, his life would be safe since he got rid of the demon of destruction. He decided to gather as much information as possible for now. The protagonist, along with the maid, approached the office of the Lord of Hell. He told the girl to wait for him outside. The boy thought that the Lord of Hell must have important information in his office. The protagonist was poking around in various places and he wanted to know the basic details of the game. The information would help the guy become invincible. He found in one of the crates a lot of manuals about the game. The maid stood at the entrance to the office. She wondered why the Overlord had suddenly decided to kill the demon general. The girl thought the protagonist killed the demon because it wanted to attack her. The girl was surprised because the Overlord wanted to avenge her, and she couldn't believe she would be so important in his eyes. A very important feature of the Feng Ying girl was brainstorming. Inside the office, the protagonist continued to study the documents. He thought to himself that the game design was wonderful. The creator had designed upgrades to items and weapon mechanisms. Jen realized that the creator of the game himself had hidden all the passwords. There is a place in the Tongue-Out prison where you can get double experience. The protagonist found an entry in his notebook about the Ghost Wave plan. Jen read that the game creator himself had removed the restriction to make the demons and monsters in the game instantly revive. Ghost Wave is scheduled to take place on the night of September 9th and will last for 6 hours. The protagonist decided to prevent the system from sending out notifications of this event. When the time comes, the protective barrier around the newcomer's village will be removed. As a result, players will not be able to leave the game and will be killed there. The guy decided to himself that he hoped the players would continue to play and yet not die from the increase in incoming energy. Jang thought about it and remembered that September 9th was supposed to be today. He continued to read the notes carefully. The main character felt very bad. This feeling was similar to what it was before. The Lord quite consciously felt that it was past time to leave. The maid standing at the door got scared. She thought something had happened to the protagonist. At once the girl became very excited and frightened and turned to the overseer. The maid frighteningly asked the boy why he was on the floor. Jang couldn't get up. The girl asked the overlord fearfully if he had fainted again. The main character decided to show that he was pissed off and threw the girl's hand away from him. Jang angrily and sternly asked the girl did he really let her touch him. The maid was very much startled by the words from the protagonist and discouraged. The girl said she was sorry and said the main character could punish her. The protagonist pondered. He realized that now it was necessary to stop the Ghost War plan. Jang hesitated. He realized that he would have to get out of the game very soon. The protagonist could not stay in the body of the overlord to wait out the wave of ghosts. He did not have the ability to go offline like other people. The protagonist began sending messages to different users to keep them off the internet until September 10th. The guy decided to inform the Qian Xiaoluo girl to by no means go online because of the great power of absorption. Zhang thought that he personally could gain triple the amount of experience by killing ghosts, just not in the evening. This would improve his pumping. The protagonist decided for himself to capture a favorable position. He approached the Eagle Cliff in the game. The guy climbed to the top of the mountain. She looked around and noticed that the sky looked very creepy. Zhang noticed that various monsters started attacking people from below. He thought that the players must be scared to death. Suddenly, there were strong explosions of demons began to scatter around. Then even the dangerous ghosts of Mandrill began to scatter in fright. Suddenly, there was a girl zero player named Meng Mu. With a firearm, she shouted at the monsters not to run away and came at her. The main character was stunned. He couldn't figure out if it was legal for Man Mu to use a Gatling gun. The main girl continued trashing the monsters with her weapon. While shooting, Meng could not understand why the monsters were so furious. The protagonist looked at the girl and realized that with such heavy firepower, she must constantly move to avoid being surrounded by enemies. In doing so, the mandrills had cornered the main. Though with proper positioning, the girl would have been able to fight back. Main was in a complete stalemate under a very large onslaught of enemies. The protagonist realized he had to convince a girl to join him. First, he wanted to see the rewards of the battle in the Valley of Peach Blossoms. Zhang was very excited because he was able to rise from the 8th level and straight up to the 15th level. The main character decided to see if they gave him any rare items. The guy didn't have any new items for defeating the destruction demon. He received over 10,000 coins. The protagonist rejoiced that he was able to earn more than 10,000 gold. Zhang decided to deal with the pumping later. Now he decided to go help the girl. Surrounded by monsters, the main girl was desperately shooting back and begging for someone to help her. The protagonist used his sword for a powerful magical strike. Zhang told Girl Meng that she was on the verge of death, but he made it absolutely in time. The main girl was very much surprised and amazed at how the guy straightened out the monsters. The protagonist, along with the girl, stood looking at the large piles of monsters in the neighborhood. Suddenly, all the demons came to life and jumped to their feet. The guy remembered the message that after the ghost wave, the monsters would instantly revive. The protagonist prepared to fight off the monsters. He shouted to the girl to hold on tight. The monsters gathered in a group and all together threw themselves at the guy and the girl. The protagonist was able to successfully escape by climbing to the top of the mountain on a rope holding a girl in his arms. The main girl was very much frightened and amazed by the unexpected rescue. The girl asked the guy with interest what kind of gear he had bought. Zhang said that he used a flying claw from the Rookie Village's one-stop store at a price of 3 gold coins. The girl said she was very surprised that the guy thought to prepare such a necessary tool in advance. The main character said he was a very cautious person. The girl asked how the guy knew the monsters would go crazy. Zhang said that he was just mining nearby and hid when he saw what was going on around him. The main girl said that this was the first time she had seen a level 15 player. She added that she would play with him now. The girl began to ask the guy about the glasses and the refills. Zhang thought to himself that his companion was very curious. The protagonist has now decided in the setting table to properly allocate his points. The player then decided to pump the pit and activate his exclusive skill. The protagonist began to quickly activate and pump up his pit in the game. Guy got a message that he had activated an exclusive skill called Bloodlust. The protagonist with the Bloodlust skill has the ability to block enemy attacks. This effect is reset after the death of the player or the enemy. The guy thought to himself that the new effects were scaring him, but he likes it. Man shouted that the monsters were coming. A huge group of ghostly soldiers in armor showed up not far away. Ghost soldiers are warriors, and who died in the great battles of the past. In groups, they are very dangerous. One of the warriors on horseback picked up the ball and decided to attack the protagonist. The guy asked the girl to cover him and open fire. Man had her machine gun ready. The girl began firing a machine gun at the ghostly warriors across the street. Meng shouted that she was starting to like it. Zhang thought that if the system saw that it was just the two of them and the girl on top of the mountain, it would want to kill them. The guy thought that as long as they were armed with a machine gun, there should be no problem. Then he noticed a huge stream of arrows flying at them. Arrows started hitting the main girl and the protagonist standing next to her. The protagonist was very much surprised to see a huge number of archers among the warriors. Looking more closely, the guy saw that even catapults were brought to the foot of the mountain. Zhang told the warriors that they could at least hold back a little and called them well-mannered fellows. The main girl said excitedly that her machine gun couldn't shoot that far. She asked the boy what to do. Zhang thought to himself that he had been careless. The protagonist realized that if he stayed with the girl on top of the mountain, they would attract more enemies. Pretty soon, the main character was being pelted by cannonballs from above. The main character grabbed the girl and got ready to run away. He said they would fight somewhere else. The warriors continued to attack the mountain. Zhang and the girl managed to escape on a rope. The protagonist held the girl man on his shoulders. They needed to escape away from the warriors. Zhang told the girl that he could switch roles with her now. He added that he would summon the great sword. The guy got a quick blade. He shouted excitedly to the girl to hold on tighter. A ghost warrior rider armed with a sword appeared not far away. The protagonist used his magic sword to strike the rider. The other warriors looked at the destroyed rider in amazement. Zhang received a new title from the system. The main character was pleased. The girl thought the guy looked cool again. Quite suddenly, the warrior who had just been stunned jumped to his feet again. Girl Meng shouted to the protagonist that the ghostly soldier had come to life. The protagonist yelled that once was enough. He grabbed the girl and started running away. The girl asked the guy if they were running away to hide in the newcomer village. Zhang said there was another place to retreat to. The protagonist suggested that the girl go and clean up the dungeon. In the dungeon, Meng asked the guy why he wanted to fight the Earth Dragon right now. Zhang replied that today, the monsters would be endlessly reborn. For that reason, they would be able to constantly defend the dungeons. The protagonist said that all the experience points they get today will be tripled immediately. Main thought that normal players think about surviving. The protagonist cares about making a profit. The girl asked the guy why his body was glowing. Zhen thought it was a teleportation scroll. Then suddenly a Xiao girl came down on top of the protagonist. The fall was very sudden. The Xiao girl told the guy that she had finally found him. Xiao reported that there were a lot of ghosts in the newcomer's village, and quite a few players who went online were immediately ambushed and killed by the ghosts. The girl luckily had a teleportation scroll. Zhang was surprised that people could still log on. He remembered that the Infernal Lord's notebook said that no one could enter during the Ghost War. Suddenly there was a great noise, and a great puff of dust rose up all around. Suddenly, a dangerous warrior with a blue sword appeared in front of the protagonist. A woman with a blue sword attacked the protagonist, and he fought her off. The protagonist told the woman that now is not a good time to PvP. Zhang told the rival that she should stop. He added that her top priority is to unite. The woman was getting ready to throw knives at the guy. He wasn't expecting that. The protagonist is very frightened when he notices that there is an explosive at his feet. The main character was blown very far to the side by the huge explosion. The girl who attacked the guy was named Len Young. She was an assassin. Meng and Xiao looked around and couldn't figure out where the main character had gone. They thought he had died in the explosion. Suddenly, the protagonist approached the girl Lin from behind. He told her she should calm down. The girls wondered how the guy was able to get close to the warrior unnoticed. The guy used a shimmering amulet that allows the user to instantly move from place to place within a radius of 30 meters. The protagonist, standing behind the girl, told her menacingly not to move, or he wouldn't spare her. Len asked the guy what kind of shape she felt behind her. She added that it wasn't a sword. Zhang was surprised at such a question from the girl. Len called the protagonist a damned bastard. The confused guy shouted to the girl that it was the hilt of a sword. The girl yelled at the guy to go to hell. She threw knives at him. The main character yelled to his girlfriends to come over and help him. Xiao decided to see what useful items she might have. Zhang told the girl to find those items that would make the warrior calm down. At this time, the main girl decided to attack the warrior girl with her weapon with a grapple mode. The girl launched a huge pink net against the Len warrior to stop her. In the end, the net swooped down on the protagonist along with his rival Len. Main told the guy not to struggle under the net because it would make it tighter. The protagonist was very much surprised at such words he heard from Meng. Eventually, the guy felt the net begin to squeeze him. The girl told him menacingly not to come any closer. Eventually, Main noticed how the protagonist was on top of the warrior. The Xiao girl commanded menacingly for Meng to release the boy and the warrior girl as soon as possible. The protagonist lying on the linen told her that he was not a good man. The warrior replied that his hilt was touching her again. After the net was unraveled, the girl Len said that this dungeon belonged to them and that the guy and the girls should go elsewhere. Zhang asked Len where her teammates were. Len replied that all of her colleagues had died during their third dungeon pass. She added that they should have gone online half an hour ago. Zhang informed the girl that she didn't have to wait any longer according to Ghostwave's rules, and her comrades wouldn't be able to go online this evening. The protagonist realized that the system had not been changed completely for dead players. The entrance is closed, for example, Ghostwave. Len told the protagonist and his girls that she would no longer stand in their way. Zhang suggested that the warrior Len team up together to clear this dungeon again. The Len girl thought that the main character had equipment and skills much higher than the others. She decided that she would team up with him to upgrade. Len told the main character that they could team up. She won't give them her contact information, and she doesn't want them to try to find her. The protagonist calmly and confusedly said he wasn't even going to do it. The Len girl told the main character that he thinks too much of himself. Xiao's girlfriend hugged the protagonist and said that when she's around him, he won't be interested in Len. The linen warrior turned her back and said that time was limited and they needed to act. The protagonist asked Xiao what she was doing. The girl told the guy that she was not happy that the warrior was being arrogant. Then the Flax warrior commanded them all to get down to business. Meng girl said cheerfully to the head character that she wasn't happy with how arrogant Len was acting. The protagonist, together with his companions, arrived at a location called the Source of the Earth Dragon. The protagonist asked Xiao if she had called and asked what the situation was. Xiao said that maybe the protagonist's younger sister had answered. The protagonist's sister said that he's been online for a couple days. If he doesn't wake up soon, she'll call an ambulance. Xiao advised that Zhang should find a balance between work and rest. The guy asked if he couldn't be dead already if he hadn't woken up in days and hadn't eaten. Xiao replied that the protagonist's sister had taken care of it. She fed him all the leftovers, and Zhang gained almost 30 kilograms. The guy thought to himself, very frustrated that he had gained extra weight in just a couple days. The linen warrior walked up to the huge portal and said they were already there. The warrior added that on the other side was the Earth Dragon's lair. She told the companions to listen to her if they wanted to win. The girls replied that they would listen. Zhang was still annoyed that he had gained 30 kilograms. They were walking through a large cave. Mane shouted in surprise that it was a very big place. Xiao said it smells awful. Len said it's the stench of the dragon. The protagonist, along with his companions, approached and saw a huge dragon lying there. Mangirl pulled out a machine gun and shouted fearfully that the dragon was here. The Earth Dragon was very formidable and dangerous. He attacks opponents with hellfire. The dragon came to his senses and decided to burn the uninvited guests with flames. The protagonist commanded the girls to bounce back. Mangirl yelled that the dragon had very thick scales. She couldn't hit it. Len asked for Mane to lure the dragon closer. She wanted to attack its belly. Xiao said she would attack the dragon from behind. She asked for Meng to get the monster's attention. The main girl agreed. She drew her weapon and prepared to attack. The protagonist wondered why the Linen Girl's team lost in the third round, even though they had good luck before. The protagonist realized that these are the real monsters from hell, so they won't reset every time they revive. Girl Mane said that the dragon was coming and that everyone should get ready. The guy realized that the dragon has memories of how he died. By this forgiveness, he knows how they will want to kill him. Zhang shouted loudly to the girls that they were in danger and to move away. Main girl was very much surprised by what she heard from the main character. Then the Xiao girl realized that they would already have to retreat now. The evil dragon attacked his companion's boyfriend with jets of fire. Man girl realized that the dragon is very fast, she can't go back. Xiao shouted that the dragon ignores the slowdown. It also has an increase in its attack speed. The dragon kept trying to hit the girls with his fire and they dodged. The main girl immediately bounced to the side with Xiao falling on top of her. The main character said he was able to help the girls because of his quick reaction time. Zhang added that if it weren't for him, the girls would have kissed long ago. Meng and Xiao, angered simultaneously, slapped the protagonist in the face. Meng called the protagonist a pervert and a lecher. Xiao asked the guy why he had such thoughts all the time. The girls beat up the guy at the same time. At this time, the sloth was looking intently at the dragon who was still nearby. The linen warrior prepared to attack the dragon with her sword. The dragon stood nearby. He looked at the warrior carefully. Suddenly, huge spikes began to rise from the ground in front of the dragon. While the girls were beating up the protagonist, he noticed the spikes sticking out. The linen warrior noticed and felt herself caught by a single spike. The thorns began to strike and pierce the flax warrior. Her life level began to drop. The warrior was able to escape the spikes. She wondered why the dragon hadn't used it before. In the end, the warrior flax was left lying on the earth. Nearby still stood a ravenous dragon. A beaten-up protagonist lying on earth, he realized things were very bad. The dragon started using fire to continue attacking the guy and his companions. A huge pillar of fire headed towards the protagonist. He prepared to defend himself. The linen warrior looked at the protagonist with consternation and excitement. Zhang activated his armor. He asked the Xiaoluo girl how many thunder vines she had left and for her to throw them to him. The girl said she understood and threw the guy some thunder vines. The dragon was restrained by a spell. Then the girl yelled that the spell didn't work so he could free himself from the vines. The girl man said excitedly that an ordinary spell would do little against a high-level monster. Zhang said that 2 thunder vines can tell a dragon for 3 seconds should be enough. The protagonist commanded the Xiaoluo girl to throw 2 more vines on his signal. He added that he would deal with the dragon. Len shouted to the guy that it would be much more sensible to leave in the dungeon. Zhang asked the girl if she knew why he had chosen this dungeon. The protagonist said confidently that he knows the weakness of this dragon. Zhang realized as he read that the Earth Dragon was fully armored and beginners would have a hard time defeating it. The protagonist had read earlier in the notebook about the dragon's vulnerability and how to defeat it. The Len girl shouted that the dragon wanted to let the spikes fly and for her companions to retreat. The protagonist accelerated and prepared to strike the dragon in flight with his sword. Zhang saw the dragon begin to free itself from the vines and threw a mine in its path. Explosive mine releases a high-pressure wave that does not deal damage but throws back any enemy. The protagonist was lying on the ground next to him, and he saw a glowing dot on the dragon's body. That's when the guy realized he could hit the dragon's vulnerable spot. When the dragon fully approached, the boy confidently struck it with his sword. When the boy cut open the belly of the dragon, he noticed a brightly glowing dot inside. The protagonist prepared to finish the monster as soon as possible. The land warrior asked if the glowing dot on her belly was the dragon's vulnerability. The protagonist said that severe damage to the dragon's belly would force it to upgrade its weakness. The location of the weaknesses is constantly changing. Zhang was congratulated for completing the dungeon, and his experience improved. The guy decided that he would upgrade his equipment. The improvement also affected the girls. Main's level went up even though she didn't do anything. The protagonist warned the companions that the next round was about to begin. He added that they should use other methods to attack. The guy said the dragon can learn since the same strategy doesn't work twice. The protagonist turned to the Xiaoluo girl, and it was her time to act. Thunder vines restrained the dragon's movement and prevent it from using stone spikes. In doing so, the explosive measures expose the dragon's belly and its weak spot. After that, it will only take a slip of the sword from underneath along the abdomen. It's very easy. The guy got another congratulations for passing the dungeon. Then the next round started. The Xiao girl managed to sneak in from below the dragon and confidently struck it with her sword. Appeared another congratulations on finishing the dungeon in the next round. The warrior Len struck the dragon. After another round of congratulations in the next round, the main girl killed the monster with her machine gun. Xiao girl said excitedly that she only had 1 thunder vase left. Meng asked why she hadn't stocked more. Man girl was scared. She suggested to run away the dragon at this time, prepared to attack. The protagonist told his companions not to panic as he had bought up all the stocks of thunder wagons and explosive mines. The girls got very excited. They said that in that case they could do it again, at which time the evil dragon once again prepared to attack. At this time, there was a meeting going on outside the Earth Dragon dungeon. One girl asked why the Lord of Hell wanted them to determine the best players. The other girl replied that the Overlord's mind could not be questioned. The girls carefully analyzed the information from the system about the man in the cave. They looked at the protagonist and wondered if the name Zhang Xiao was synonymous with the word arrogant. After Ghostwave ended, the game mechanics returned to normal. The protagonist and the girl Xiao were standing at the entrance to the dungeon. Zhang said it was over very quickly. Girlman said that time flies fast when it's fun. Len told her that it went pretty well for one night. Xiao said they were very tired from the night. Len said she wanted to log off and sleep. They looked at the dragon lying there. Zhang said he would stay awake and look around. Then Len and Meng said goodbye to the main character and his girlfriend. Xiao told the guy not to be addicted to the game, but added that he should log off and rest. The guy said he understood. Xiao's girlfriend turned around and told the guy that she was coming out too. Zhang agreed. The protagonist said it was good that he could rest and regain his energy in the game. He sat on a rock and meditated. Suddenly some noise tore Zhao from his meditation and he opened his eyes. The guy saw 2 magical girls with red eyes standing next to him. The protagonist asked the past girls what business they had with him. One of the girls in black immediately attacked the guy. Zhang thought that the girl's black and white colored clothes resembled the robes of the deity of impermanence. The girl in white told the protagonist that his reflexes were very good. The girl in black told the guy they'd appreciate his true strength. Then the girl in white decided to attack the guy. Zhang had a hard time defending himself. The protagonist defends himself against the girl's attacks and realizes they have terrifying powers. After that, the protagonist felt himself completely shackled by magic chains. The guy ended up completely restrained by chains held in his hands by a girl in black. The protagonist felt the large chains absorbing his energy. He decided to use the Thunder Talisman. The talisman gave the hero great strength to break the chains. The girl in black was surprised that Zhang used the Thunder Talisman on himself. The protagonist activated his armor. He realized he had to take out one of the girls. He had the advantage in speed. The girl in white drew a magical circle in the air. The guy looked at her, after which the girl pointed a knife flying on a chain toward the guy. The guy realized he was being attacked by some kind of special weapon with unlimited expansion and extensive range. The girl in black said with a smile to the guy, just so he wouldn't get his pants dirty. The guy missed another attack. He realized that the girl's weapons could also be duplicated. Then the protagonist felt his armor disintegrate, and he became defenseless. The girl in white wondered how the protagonist would behave if he knew it was over. Zhang thought he couldn't win since the girls were together. After some thought, the guy decided there was only one way out. That's when Zhang started activating a pit skill called Bloodlust. An activated special skill could help a guy in battle. The protagonist was very much transformed after activating his spell. The huge and vast demon he summoned appeared behind Zhang. The girl was very much surprised. She didn't expect the main character to be able to find such help. The girl said that's a lot of bragging for such a pathetic spirit. There was no way the girl could attack the protagonist anymore. Zhang shouted to the girl in white to come forward. He continues to fight to the death. The protagonist used the skill of blocking the opponent against the girl in white. Then the guy used his sword to finish off the girl in white. Suddenly, the girl in white turned around and said calmly that that was enough. The girl in white told her companion that they could leave. The girl in black asked if she was scared. The main character was very surprised. He couldn't understand why the game settings didn't affect the girls. They were even able to forcibly turn off his exclusive skill. Zhang couldn't understand why the girls passed and left without any explanation. Already at this time, the girls were quietly walking entirely alone through the thicket of the forest. The girl in black remembered that the Overlord had ordered them to keep a close eye on Zhang. She imagined she was in bed with her girlfriend and the protagonist. The girl in black took off her shoes and offered her girlfriend to turn into the equipment items. After that, the system would send them to Zhang. After a little thought, the girl in white agreed to her friend's suggestion. Already after that, both girls had completely rid their bodies of their clothes. The two girls took off slightly and turned into two small bracelets. Then the bracelets flew across the sky. They were meant for Zhang. The protagonist realized that his armor was shattered. He was able to get a lot of good materials. They will help him forge new armor in the village of newcomers. The system informed the guy that he had been awarded a super accessory called yin-yang bracelets. Suddenly, Zhang felt as if bracelets began to fall from the sky through lightning bolts onto his hands. The guy was very surprised as the bracelets caught on his arms. The guy was looking closely at the bracelets. The system informed him that he could not remove the bracelets because he would be severely punished. Zhang realized that the black and white deity of impermanence had latched onto him. The guy decided to pretend he was shouting cheerfully that he had gotten lucky. He thanked the system. Zhang decided to wait and see what his enemies were up to. The protagonist came to the newcomer's village with a huge crystal hanging in the center. Some of the players were outraged why such an event was made. Zhang stood and heard someone say that a lot of guys had lost everything they had last night, while a couple of players were able to raise their level a lot. One guy said that yesterday these players were not even in the top 50, but today they are already in the top 10. The protagonist was in 6th place. With 3 days left until the month's summation, the top 5 players can directly challenge the Guardian boss because of this competition will intensify. The protagonist thought he was only 6th so far. He realized he'd have to work hard. Suddenly, the guy saw a familiar assassin Len girl appear. A girl named Len was called Overby. A good friend of hers named Ansi Ur. The girlfriend said that Len was able to level up in just one night. Suddenly, other players appeared in front of the assassin girl. The girlfriend asked Len how she had managed to destroy so many demons by herself. Len replied that she had met 3 other players. They were able to do the sweep as a team. One guy said angrily that they spent several lives developing an attack that other people were using. Len reported that the players were killed by the Earth Dragon because it was able to figure out their strategy. The girl added that the monsters in the game are not so simple. A guy named Jin Deshao asked the girl how they were able to kill the dragon many times. Len said the protagonist found the dragon's weakness, so the monster couldn't do anything about their strategy. Players laughed. One of them said that if others use this strategy many times, the developers will fix everything quickly. Jin Deshao asked Len girl why she was in such a hurry to break up with them. The angsty girl told the players to appreciate their comrades. One player said that increasing the level of Yuning is good for them. He added not to dwell on it. A guy said that if he didn't take care of his girlfriend, she would leave. A player named Cleaner said that the ranking period is about to start. They might miss the chance to go down to the next level of hell again. After that, the guy thought about the information he'd gotten. The player said menacingly and judiciously that it's all very unpleasant. If they continue like this, they will miss a lot of opportunities. Len asked why the players were so desperate to get down to the next level of hell. Ensi promised to tell her and asked her not to tell other people. Ensi told me that level 18 has an officially organized grand prize. The first player to find it would receive a great fortune. The player angrily told the girl that he had asked her not to blab about it. The NC replied that she was only secreting with her girlfriend. Lena wondered to herself how she could not have known that such conditions existed. NC had said that only the best players could know. NC said that they must leave the prison of the ripped tongue as soon as possible, or the others would overtake them. At that time, a message from the system came through. The system has warned that a rare dungeon beast called the Yellow Spring Worm has appeared in the Great Desert. Each player who defeats it will receive a great reward. The NC girl said they had to move forward into the desert to get that worm. One guy said the players have to work for the next 3 days. The NC girl was holding Len's hand and telling her something interesting. One of the players said that those who are above them in the ranking can move them there. Another guy replied that the level of the opponent is so high that they can't win. The leader said they had nothing to fear and could proceed after arriving in the Great Desert. The leader and the players headed out into the desert. One guy said that the boss had his own special methods. Zhang looked at the players and couldn't figure out how the girl had gotten involved with them. The protagonist wondered why the Overlord's notes didn't mention anything about an 18th level of hell with a big reward. Zhang thought to himself that such crooks never change their habits. He now had a chance to collect on their debts. The girl in the black bracelet didn't understand why the guy was going in the opposite direction, because he had to take revenge. The white bracelet girl was silent. She didn't think anything at all. The protagonist came on business with a girl who was a master blacksmith. The lady smith greeted the protagonist she was ready to help him. The lady blacksmith was standing in front of the guy. Zhang told her he wanted to buy a set of armor. The lady told the guy she'd show him the best sets she had. He can pick whatever he likes. The protagonist replied that all the kits were very simple. He asked if there was anything more interesting. The lady explained that a guy could buy a regular kit first and then enhance it with materials. The protagonist threw a huge pile of various artifacts on the table in front of the lady. Zhang asked with interest to the lady if it would be enough for her. The lady was very much taken aback. She realized that there was a lot of material. Zhang said he needed to improve his sword. The lady replied that she could do it without any problem. After training, the lady was able to create a new outfit for the protagonist. The system reported that Zhang had obtained a piece of equipment called the Azure Dragon Armor. The lady told the boy that he was very awesome. It was the first time she had seen such good equipment made in a novice village. Zhang thanked the lady for her help. Then the blacksmith woman told the guy to wait a while. The lady gave the protagonist a mysterious horn. It will help the guy to improve items himself without going to the forge. Zhang was surprised that he could upgrade items for free. The lady added that it was a limited item. The protagonist ran happily down the street. He thought he was very lucky. Inside the forge, the lady walked over to the huge doors and began to open them. There was a red portal outside the doors. The lady said she had done the Lord's will as commanded. The girl said that the lady had done well. She also added not to publicize what was here. The lady reported that the mysterious horn is the greatest artifact that the Lord of Hell personally created. It wasn't part of the game to begin with. The girl replied that the smith woman should not ask about things that one should not know about. She added that the Lord had his own plans. The main character was sitting on a rock in the village. He couldn't understand what kind of bracelets he got and what use they were. Zhang thought the bracelet might have a button to activate some kind of mechanism. In the inner space of the bracelet, the girl felt an outside influence. Suddenly, the protagonist seemed to be struck by a large bolt of lightning. The protagonist was surprised. He didn't understand what had just happened. Zhang noticed that his life expectancy had plummeted. He didn't expect it. The system reported that the bracelets utilized the latest technology, with the black bracelet being the attacker. Suddenly, a girl appeared. She greeted the guy and ran toward him. The girl said she had been looking for Zhang for a long time. The guy told her that he hadn't rested for a long time and had decided to get back online soon. The girl said she missed a message from a guy last time and almost died near the crystal. The main character said that man's girlfriend hadn't arrived yet. He added that they couldn't wait for her. They had to go. Zhang said confidently to his companion that they really needed to save the man. There were a huge number of different players running down the road of one of the locations. The girl said in a tired voice that she couldn't run anymore and offered to rest. The boy told her that now everyone was going to the Great Desert. If they delayed, they would get nothing. The player shouted for the Earth Elemental to hear him and absorb his mana. The other players were telling Magu to hang on. Someone said that if they made it to the Great Desert, it would be their victory. There was a player riding a wild boar who said that the choice of smart people is to tame the manhunt. The guy said he was annoyed that people were creative and he was a big loser. The girl told him that they could use a little trickery too. Suddenly, a very strong wind blew. The sky began to darken suddenly. A huge cloud began to cover the sky, and most of the players were in the shadows. All the players looked up into the dark sky with great surprise and interest. After that, the players spotted a huge flying blue fish in the sky. The girl sitting on the fish said the company could cover 80,000 li daily. It gives everyone a chance to enjoy, for a fee, views of the mountains. The protagonist told his girlfriend that she had wasted a lot of time this time. The girl replied that it was a drop of water in the ocean. Gradually, the huge fish flew on. The players didn't understand to themselves what they were even counting on. The protagonist and his companion arrived in the great desert. The girl said the oppressive atmosphere made her feel uncomfortable. The boy said that even the sunlight doesn't cut through the clouds. The girl asked the protagonist how they could find the Len girl. The guy told his girlfriend to take her time. He suggested she sit and wait. Suddenly, the girl got angry and yelled to the guy that he was peeping at her at such a moment. Zhang thought that the companions would use the Len girl's energy to subdue the yellow spring worm. The protagonist decided that they should now wait patiently for the monster to appear. He was with the girl inside a makeshift tent. The girl asked the guy if he knew where the yellow spring worm would appear. Zhang replied meaningfully that the worm would appear in due time. They just had to wait. The boy knew who the black and white deities of impermanence were watching him, so he could not reveal the secrets he possessed. The girl apologized to the guy for accusing him of questioning her. The girl remembered that the guy always found the right strategy and minimized the risks to maximize the rewards. The girl remembered all the victories and accomplishments of the protagonist that she knew about. The girl realized that she felt safe with Zhang. The boy was surprised, but he didn't understand why the girl's face had turned red. He thought it was time for a nap before the worm showed up. At this time, the girl was completely absorbed in her thoughts she was weeing. Then suddenly something stirred the protagonist and he woke up at once. The protagonist realized the worm had appeared. He wanted to get up but noticed that a girl's foot was on him. The guy was very embarrassed. He wanted to remove his foot, but he woke the girl up. The girlfriend started to wake up. She didn't know the guy was sitting next to her. Zhang and the girl argued inside the tent for a very long time. A noise was heard from somewhere far away. On the Earth's surface, there was a large footprint of a huge worm crawling. The protagonist said that the worm is usually shorter underground and only goes out to find food, and wherever it goes, it shakes the ground. The girl looked at the worm trail and said it was very long and very thick. Zhang chuckled. The girlfriend asked the guy what she said that was so funny. The guy told her he was just giggling. The girl said that people have already showed up, and they are attacking the worm and the players have attacked it. The protagonist was wondering how they could find the worm's head as soon as possible. If the worm's head is not discovered, the players will not be able to gather for an attack. Zhang decided that he could not let the worm's bounty be stolen by someone else, so he would kill it himself and wait for Yu Ning's group to appear. One of the players couldn't understand why his wood element attacks didn't help at all. The protagonist knew that the worm living in the desert belonged to the earth element. The guy remembered who, even though the worm was born under the great desert sands, it still belonged to the golden element. Zhang had to act in such a way that the deities did not suspect that he was reading the notes. The girl said judiciously that the players were wrong because the worm did not belong to the element of earth. The boy asked his girlfriend why she thought so. The guy was glad that his girlfriend was able to eliminate any suspicion he might have had against him. The girl said that the monster's name has the words yellow spring in it, so she's sure it's a water-type element. The girlfriend got excited and said she was an Ama genius. The protagonist felt disappointed. The girl said that only fire battle weapons would be effective now. The guy thought to himself that he could not understand the girl's logic and how different elements could be connected. Zhang thought that using the fire element against water was ineffective. He had no problem with the golden element. It would be good if the girl continued to stick to her theory. The girlfriend pulled out the scarlet flame sword and said it was a good thing she didn't throw it away. The protagonist took a sword and told the girl he'd kill the worm so fast it wouldn't realize it was there. The protagonist decided to use a fire talisman to transfer power to his sword. At this time, on the inside of the bracelet, the girl in black said she didn't want to see any more of these idiots. The girl in white said they should just take their actions as pure luck. The protagonist shouted happily that he was now ready. He decided to change his plans and destroy the worm first. The protagonist was running through the valley, yelling at the other players to give way. One player yelled at the protagonist not to use firearms. It would only make the worm stronger. The protagonist replied that everyone knows he prepared to attack the worm with his sword. The guy shouted that the name of the worm implies that it refers to water. He stabbed his sword into the ground. The surrounding players shouted in surprise that they were witnessing a dropout effect. Suddenly, the earth opened up and a huge worm crawled up out of it. The protagonist watched with fear and excitement as the worm climbed out. The protagonist ended up alone against a giant worm. The players were very frightened when they saw the size of the monster. The guy thought the monster's head was open. That means the other players will be here soon. He has to destroy the worm before the others arrive. The girl in the bracelet said the main character would die from a worm attack, and they need to do something. Zhang thought he couldn't defeat the monster. He also decided that the deities of permanence would not watch him die. Because of this, the purpose of following him might be revealed. The girl in white said that if the protagonist dies, he will go offline and their time will be wasted. The other girl said that there was no choice and it was time to act. A huge worm prepared to attack the protagonist. The guy felt that his hands moved by themselves. Huge waves of magic started coming out of the guy's hands, and he realized it was the bracelets. The girls hidden in the bracelets helped the protagonist fight off the monster very quickly. The protagonist said cheerfully to himself that he had acted very strongly. Zhang shouted at the worm to come at him and promised to beat him up. The worm decided to squeeze the guy. It started wrapping rings around him. The main character was very frightened. He didn't know what to do in such a situation. The girl called out to the boy fearfully. She saw him being run over by the monster. The protagonist was practically unable to move when his bracelet went off, at which time the girl's hidden bracelets began to unclench the worm. The guy felt as if he could unclench the worm around him with his bracelets. The protagonist noticed a huge magical purple cloud appearing near the worm. There was a very strong underground explosion and it hit the monster. A girl with a magical short sword ran up and started hitting the worm with it. Zhang thought to himself that the girls in his bracelets had saved him. The girl's job was to keep him from dying and to keep him from getting stronger. The girl with the sword moved confidently. She saw the other players arrive. A girl ran up and told her colleagues that some of them were hiding and the rest were going to attack. The guy shouted that they would cut off the worm's head. Len looked closely and saw that the main character's girlfriend was standing next to the worm. The protagonist's companion also noticed the approaching Linen and gestured for her to be silent. At this time, a blue magic cloud began to appear near the monster. Big purple waves flew from the monster and hit the players. One of the players shouted to his colleagues to attack the girl, told her to attack with her, or the leader would be angry with her. The archer shouted fearfully that the other players had been taken out of the game. Some of the players said that the monster has a lot of health, but they still have a chance to defeat it. It's time to test their skills. One guy said they've lost their edge. Another player said that if they waited and attacked at the right moment, they could take the spoils. Suddenly, the worm scattered all the players around with a strong blow. One player shouted that the monster was very strong and it would take forever to defeat it. The worm loosened his grip as he needed to move his body to attack the other players. The protagonist was able to free himself. Suddenly, the monster from the side was attacked by fire lightning, causing it to suffer great damage. One player noticed with surprise that some of the worm's health had simply disappeared. The players noticed a group of new warriors arriving. One of the new warriors was named Ancient Little Wang. The girl next to him was named Eternal Boob God. Someone said it was the top 5 players from the prison of the ripped tongue. The warrior's name was your girlfriend, and her companion had the name of the first guy in the village. A fire player girl with yellow hair appeared. She was in charge. The girl with the bright red sword was called in the game I Don't Like Eating Spinach. The girl in red cast a special spell and prepared to attack. The girl flew towards the monster. She shouted to the other players to move away so they wouldn't accidentally get hit. One of the players shouted to the girl that there were still players near the worm. Here the warrior turned around and told the guy they didn't care at all. The guy got mad at the warrior. Then another player said he better not mess with a group of top players. The girl, frightened, called out to the protagonist she was standing next to the worm. At which time the Linen jumped on the worm. She shouted for the others to go ahead. The NC girl shouted to a group of players to come over and help. One of the guys pulled a knife and stabbed the girl. He said they'd take care of it. NC girl immediately lost all her vitality. She didn't understand why the guy stabbed her. The guy received a message that he received a lot of gold and various artifacts from NC. The player thought that he had one less obstacle for him. The guy asked the boss why he didn't play with the girl first before killing her. The player replied that the girl's supplies were more interesting than she was. He told the players to get the linen. One of the players said that he couldn't wait for them to get the flax. The girl continued to attack the dragon. The guy thought that the girl's resources would be enough for them for a long time. At this time, a huge fire blur attacked the girl unexpectedly. The girl started to fall while the main character grabbed her just in time. The guy asked the girl why on earth she ran right under the zipper. The girl asked the guy how he got out. She was afraid for him. The guy explained that so he was on top, but he could remember that according to the worms, there was a hole in the ground through which he escaped. Suddenly, a Linen girl came up. She asked the boy and his companion what they were doing here. The protagonist yelled for Len to turn around and 2 players jumped on her from behind. Immediately, the Linen girl turned around. She was in no way expecting an attack. The protagonist struck the attackers with his sword and said that they had taken off their masks. Players asked the protagonist why he got in their way. Another guy pointed out that Zhang was able to take out 2 people with 1 punch. The protagonist asked the warriors if they could just forget about him. The players remembered that they had killed the protagonist near the newcomer village. They couldn't understand why he reached level 17 so quickly. The protagonist shouted at the players that they were disgusting, and they would feel the feeling of the people they robbed. The guy himself has completely and successfully defeated all of his opponents. There's a player who asked the protagonist to spare them. The guy handed over all their stuff and asked the protagonist to let them go. At this time, the Linen girl came over and kicked one player with all her might. The Len girl asked menacingly at her attackers what they had done to the NC. Zhang told the players to get out of the game. He promised that the next time they met, they would not leave alive. He promised that the next time they met, they would not leave alive. Len told the guy that these scumbags can't be let off so easily. The protagonist explained that even if they kill the attackers, they live again. For the players, the bigger punishment would be to be left penniless. At this time, the worm knocked and punched the fleeing players with a mighty blow. Zhang said that karma had caught up with the players. Len said that the worm didn't have long to live. She didn't believe that the top 5 players could come together. The girl added that they were no competition at all to these top players. Zhang said they didn't need to be competitors at all. The Van warrior commanded one of her subordinates to attack and the other girl to replenish her mana. The warrior told the archer girl to shoot the monster in the mouth. She prepared 3 arrows. All the arrows flew into the worm monster and hit it, causing a lot of damage. Zhang said that the worm's health will be depleted soon. We should try to strike the last blow at this time. The girl told the protagonist not to be reckless and looked at the guy near the worm. It was obvious from the guy that he wouldn't hesitate to hit anyone who approached. The girl and her companion were approaching the monster. One guy shouted that join the other player's player near the monster started attacking opponents with an axe. From the very powerful blow of the axe, the girls flew far aside. The warrior shouted to the archer that she had let one man forward. The protagonist managed to break through. The guy with the sword was very surprised. The archer told the guy to relax. She said that Zhang was going to die. The archer launched a swarm of her arrows at the protagonist. The arrows reached the guy and began to sink into the monster's body beside him. Suddenly, one arrow very aptly and directly hit the protagonist in the ass. The arrow hurt the guy and took a lot of his health. The girl said the guy took a lot of damage, now he won't get to the worm. Len said they won't be allowed to knock out the archer. The protagonist continued to fight off the arrows. He thought the distance wasn't enough and he still couldn't use it. The archer told the protagonist that everything he does is completely useless. The archer jumped on the body of the monster she was approaching the protagonist. That's when the main girl showed up with her machine gun. She asked how people could have fun without her. The girl commanded Zhang to move forward. The main character got excited. He said that Mengmu had come just in time. Warrior Van told his girls to deal with the men. He promised he would replace them. At that moment, the archer continued to shoot at the protagonist who was near the worm. Zhang barely had time to cover himself from a very strong fire strike. Immediately, the girl man shouted very excitedly and called out to the protagonist. Zhang activated the Azure Dragon armor. He also toggled the Furious Thunderblade. The flying warrior asked the protagonist with interest if he had invulnerability. The protagonist flew upwards very quickly. He saw that the monster had not long to live. The warrior told the protagonist not to even think about hitting the worm. The protagonist was very close and prepared to strike the worm with his sword. The protagonist has activated his Thundersword switch. Then the protagonist started destroying the monster by stabbing it with his sword. The players realized that Zhang had taken the monster's remaining life. Someone asked what the guy's characteristics were. After the victory, the protagonist immediately fell from the heights to the ground. The protagonist realized that he had won just in time. He was only a little ahead. The system reported that the guy got a battle drum and a demon blade for defeating the worm. Thanks to the victory, the protagonist's level rose from 17th to 19th. Len wondered if she was considered a member of the main character's team. Also raised the level of the main girl. She said it was a lot of work. The warrior with the sword was very angry. He didn't like that the protagonist killed the monster. Suddenly, someone from behind hit the warrior's head with a stick with all his might. The warrior asked the girl to let him go because he wanted to tear up the protagonist. The girl told the warrior sternly not to embarrass them. She asked if he could definitely hit Zhang now. The protagonist said there weren't enough rewards to share. He added that he needed to go to the next level. The warrior replied that they had 2 more days before it was over, and the outcome would not change whether or not they killed the worm. The players turned around and started to leave. They yelled at the protagonist that they were never in the top 5 anyway. The suddenly departing girl turned around to look at Zhang and his companions. The protagonist asked the departing players once again if they didn't need such good things. The girls threw themselves in a hug at the guy, saying they won. Len said that the departed players will challenge together the first level boss. This will help them level up faster in the coming days. The man suggested we go out to farm mobs now. The protagonist said that it's not easy to catch up with him now. He suggested the companions to go together and challenge the first level boss. The girls were very much surprised at the main character's suggestion. The man was greatly relieved. The pledge village was discussing the leaders of the rankings. The protagonist came in 2nd place. At the same time, Van and his team carved out the wolf pack of the Dragon Ridge. This place was the most favorable place to improve the experience. At the same time, Zhang Xiao was with his companions in a special hotel where he received a foot massage. Zhang suggested to his companions that they also try this relaxing massage. The girlfriend told the guy strictly that while others are improving their experience, he is here relaxing and enjoying a foot massage. The guy told his girlfriend not to worry, and that all in good time. Zhang thought that if he stayed in the top 5 today, the other 4 would definitely play dirty against the boss. For this reason, he should lead Xiao Luo and the others there. The protagonist thought that after he did, the Lord of Hell would realize he'd read his notes. The warrior Van was very surprised to hear the report that the protagonist was busy massaging his feet. The axe-wielding warrior said the protagonist and his companions are enjoying life. The girl said that Zhang is very diligent and he must have his own plans. She added that they can just pump the girl while the main character is in the top 5. The warrior got angry and said they wouldn't do that. He also added that the first place should be his. The warrior shouted needing only experience farming. He added also that there is no more suitable for leveling up than this. The girl and her teammates watched the warrior closely. At this time, there was a small red fox walking in the newcomer's village near the hotel entrance. The protagonist told his companion right away that this was the place. The protagonist added that the fastest experience points in Tongue-Torn Prison appear here. The main character was level 19 in the game. He was a swordsman and had high health. Among the weapons, the guy had a furious thunderblade and a demonic blade. He also had an azure dragon armor and bracelets along with a battle drum. The girl Qian Xiaolo was level 17 and was a swordsman with a high health score. The girl was armed with a sword from the abyss and had the accessory ring of invisibility. As her armor, she had the crown of the phoenix. The girl Len Yunin was level 17. She was an assassin. She had low health. The linen girl was only armed with asymmetrical blades with the ability to improve. Mengmu's girlfriend had a firearm and a very low health score. The main was armed with a Gatling machine gun without any possibility of improvement. The protagonist along with his companions were looking at a fox. Man asked if it was possible to get experience from this animal. The protagonist said that the player is applying for the side quest trial of Steel Will. Immediately, the image of a young and beautiful red-haired girl appeared above the vixen. At this time, the magical transformation of the vixen into a girl began. The red-haired girl told the guy to repeat the activation keyword and accept the quest. The girl said that the player has to guess where the key is. If he makes a mistake, his level will be reduced by half. Main said it was best not to take any chances. Another girl said that the probability of success was only 50%. The protagonist held out his hand to the girl and said he fully accepts the quest. The companions of the protagonist were very much frightened and wary. Zhang pointed to one of the girl's hands and said it was the key. The main character's companions were surprised and discouraged by his success. The red-haired girl congratulated the protagonist for successfully completing the quest. After that, the girl said that she was opening a portal and wished him a happy journey. A door in the floor opened where Zhang fell down with his companions. The guy, along with his girlfriends, found himself in a place completely unfamiliar to him. In this place, you can't use any weapons to pass the test. Players can only rely on your body. The guy and the girls fell off the raft. There are 3 phases to the challenge. The first one is called the speed test. The protagonist noticed that they were floating down some river, 300 meters to the cliff. We have to catch 50 carp before the raft falls off the cliff. The main girl asked how they could see the fish without instruments. The girl excitedly pointed to the side and said storm carp aside. The main character and his girlfriends noticed a huge number of fish jumping out of the water. The girls started fishing as fast as they could. It was very difficult. The main character told his girls to take it easy and use their hands. Suddenly, Zhang was distracted from the ordeal. He began to look at his companions. The boy looked closely at the linen. Only now he noticed her lush form. Zhang also looked at Meng with dark red hair. He could not look away. The guy also looked closely at another of his girlfriends. He was looking at her in a blue swimsuit. Zhang was so happy that he even chewed the fish. He thought it was the best quest ever. The system reported that the participants had successfully completed the speed test, and the next test was about to begin. The protagonist, along with his girlfriends, found himself in a large and dark cave. The next test was called the understanding test. There were many round fish lying around the main character. You had to catch a fish without using any tools. Zhang decided to use his hands. The protagonist noticed the fish slipping easily out of his hands. Zhang could not hold the fish because it was very slippery. The girl thought to pass the test of understanding 2 people must work together. The girl demanded that Meng Yin get in front of her. Meng asked her friend what she wanted from her. The girl put the fish between her and her girlfriend. She said when you count to 3, and they'd squeeze it together. On the count of 3, the girl squeezed the fish so hard it burst. The fish was completely blown to smithereens. It was their first fish of the day. The system reported that only 1 in 100 fish had been caught. The girls got really excited. They realized that they had succeeded. The protagonist thought to himself that he was very grateful to the Lord of Hell. The girls said any part of the body would do, not just the hands. Meng suggested that the boy and his girlfriend try it. The system gave a message that 5 fish had been caught. One of the girls got embarrassed. Zhang said shyly Len that they should focus on the overall situation. The girl replied that nothing could be done. The main character and the girl squeezed the fish between their breasts. The guy told the girl to use all her strength. Zhang reported that he would not have done it if there was no other option. The guy said carefully then they should start by gently hugging each other, when one of the girls shouted at the main character to accept the wrath of God. Immediately the girl swung around and kicked the fish with all her might. After a strong blow, the fish flew towards the protagonist's face. After hitting the guy's face, the fish went completely sideways. The girls were very surprised at what their girlfriend had just done. The guy lying on the earth asked his girlfriend in wonder what she was doing. The girl gave the guy a stern look and said she would be paired with him. After that, Meng cheerfully suggested to the girl Yu Ning to be paired with her. At this time, Warrior Wang was agitated because the protagonist had disappeared online. The girl confirmed that Zhang had suddenly disappeared. At that time, the archer shouted for everyone to be careful. Suddenly, something fell from above and threw the warrior aside. The flying archer said to the warrior to concentrate and not get distracted. At the same time, the girl in red raised my level from level 20 to level 21. Eventually, the players noticed that the leader in the rankings was a girl named I Don't Like Eating Spinach. It was reported that all of Xiao Wang's team members had become stronger by a couple of levels. At the same time, Zhang Xiao also slowly increased in level, at which time the protagonist was at the location of the trial with the girl. The contestants were preparing for the next stage. Zhang commanded the girls to get behind him. The main character said they're on a side quest for super experienced players. The Len girl asked her friend furtively if she liked the main character. Suddenly, Man's girlfriend fell to the ground. At that time, Len told her girlfriend that she would help her if she liked the main character. The girl stopped. Len asked apprehensively what had just happened. At the same time, there was a huge spider hanging on the main girl. She couldn't get up. The protagonist stopped when he heard a noise. He got worried. Zhang turned around and asked what was wrong. He hadn't noticed the monster approaching him. The protagonist ran up to his girls and saw that they were being attacked by spiders. Zhang started picking spiders off the girls as they lay unconscious. The guy was viciously and mercilessly smashing spiders that were really big. After the protagonist fished out the spiders, he decided to take them away. Zhang wondered to himself who those spiders were. He ran sideways along with them. The guy yelled loudly that spiders were nasty and crushed them all to the ground. The protagonist calmed down and said to himself that these spiders were attacking the girls. Suddenly, the guy noticed a huge spider pouncing on him with a purple mist coming from it. The protagonist realizes that the monster has decided to attack him with hallucinogenic gas. The gas began to act very quickly, causing the guy to pass out and fall into a reverie. Zhang completely forgot that he was in a dark cave surrounded by a dangerous spider. The protagonist woke up in some kind of pink fog. He didn't know where he was. The guy felt a girl call him over and touch him. The main character saw a linen standing next to him. She told him that she was very lonely. The girl asked the guy to stay with her. Zhang immediately agreed. Then a main girl came up from behind and told the guy gently that she would be with them, at which time Len began to undress and cheerfully suggested we play. Zhang thought to himself that this was really amazing. Suddenly from the side came another girl. The main character was surprised. The girl in the blue bathing suit told the main character to get with her. The main character told the girls not to worry because there's enough for everyone. Suddenly the guy was thinking. He immediately realized that something was going wrong. The guy concentrated and woke up and remembered that he was in a cave, and he saw the bodies of the girls. Zhang noticed a girl in a spider costume standing next to him. She said she wanted to go out and have fun. Immediately, the main character knocked the spider woman and ran to his girls. Spider girl fell to the ground. The guy was already near the girls at this time. Zhang thought to himself that he had almost believed in the illusion, but it was good that he could get out. The system gave out a message that the guy had overcome the illusion, and the test was over and he was rewarded with a treasure chest called the Blessing of Hades. The protagonist remembered that he didn't realize there was treasure here. Zhang began to shake Xiaoluo's girlfriend so that she would regain consciousness. The girl mistook the guy for a spider monster and punched him in the face with all her might. The girl told the guy that she did it subconsciously. Zhang replied that it was okay and he wasn't hurt at all. The protagonist looked in the chest and said that now it all depends on how much experience they get. In the newcomers' village, the announcer said that so far Xiao Wang's team has taken the top spots. It's unclear whether the protagonist will be able to overtake them. The system showed a message that the protagonist and his girls had topped the rankings. The host was surprised. He could not understand how the ranking of Zhang Xiao's team could grow so quickly. The boss watched on TV that the main character's team got a chance to challenge him. The announcer said to congratulate the winning team. The boss thought to himself that it was his turn. The boss of the tongue-pulling prison prepared to fight against the protagonist. At the foot of a great mountain, the warrior van massacred wild wolves. The warrior very quickly chopped up a whole bunch of beasts, and a new pack appeared nearby. A huge wolf came at the Wang warrior from behind, and he didn't see it right away. Suddenly, the wolf was struck by a very huge jet of fire from the side. Van turned around to see what was wrong. He wasn't happy to be disturbed. The girl in red told Wang to give up because he couldn't beat her. The other girl said that Xiao Wang's condition was very bad because of stress. A message came that the player has the right to challenge the boss of darkness. The girl told Van that he could challenge the 9th floor of the tower with his powers. The van warrior sitting on the ground said he was not at all happy with this horrible way of doing things. The warrior told the girl to prevent the 4 players led by the protagonist from defeating her. The girl said she'd do her best, and the teleportation process began. Immediately, the girl in red very quickly teleported away. The surrounding people were surprised. The teleportation process carried the girl in red to the top of a huge tower. In the tower was already the protagonist with his girlfriends. The girl said she was thinking of even resting. Man replied that there was no need to rest. The protagonist noticed a girl from Wang's warrior group appearing very close to them. Zhang told the girl that Xiao Wang was so angry that he could not overtake them and was defeated. The main character told the girl that she was the only magician and he wanted to ask for his help. The girl replied that she would do whatever she could. Zhang said he hoped it would be a good cooperation. The girl in black inside the bracelet thought she'd be in trouble if they escorted the guy to his highness. The girl in white inside the bracelet said there's no need to hurry. The main thing is for Zhang not to cause unnecessary trouble. The main character happily thought to himself that the girls in the bracelets didn't even realize he could hear them. One of the girls suggested to the other that they should wait for the guy to finish the boss fight. At this time, the head boss was preparing for battle. A small demon came up and said that 5 people had arrived. The boss looked in the mirror and said he'd be there in a minute. Demon hurried the boss. The boss told his subordinate that he would chop him into pieces if he continued to talk while a warrior appeared from behind. The warrior looked menacingly at the demon and asked if he really felt that way about his words. The girl asked what that sound was. Len said she heard someone screaming. The girl in red said all the players are on each of the 8 levels below. Players can advance to the next level of hell if challenged by 9 levels of large ghosts. At the beginning of the game was all good and floors were easy to pass through. As more and more players advanced, they increased the difficulty of the game to limit the number of promoted players. In the first month, 1,000 players went to the second level of hell every day in the second month. Only a couple hundred people went to the second level. The girl said that now it was clear why everyone wanted to get into the tops to summon the boss directly. Zhang thought that the Eastern Demon Emperor wanted to leave as many players as possible to absorb the Yang energy. The boss asked the Eastern Emperor what brought him here. The Emperor asked the boss if the 5 people who had challenged him had already decided. The boss said the top 5 players of the month have advanced and are waiting for him. The Eastern Emperor said that the plan had changed, and this time no one should pass. The boss wanted to tell the Emperor about the consequences if no one gets through. The Emperor replied that the boss should take them all down at once and he would watch. The Emperor said he wanted the King of Hell to know he was disobedient. He has many ways to make him obey. The boss dutifully told the Emperor that he understood everything and that he was very wise. The Emperor said the boss should be good and not let him down. He also promised a reward. Man-girl said impatiently, "It's been 20 minutes and the boss still hasn't come out. Len said the boss will be easy to defeat." The boss showed up with a huge mace. He apologized for keeping everyone waiting. The girl said in amazement that would all future bosses be so disgusting. Man confirmed that the boss is very disgusting. Main yelled at her boss for ruining her mood and started shooting at him. The boss said cheerfully that while he wanted to finish his apple, his health level didn't drop. Main was very surprised because the boss didn't lose health. The girl thought that according to the information, the Night King's defense wasn't that high. She couldn't understand why normal attacks didn't work at all. The girl thought that maybe the difficulty level had been raised. Then the boss cheerfully said he'd finished his apple and now they could start. After that, the boss spit in Man's direction. She was very shocked by it. The girl fell off. She was in a lot of pain. She suffered corrosion damage. Zheng shouted to the surrounding people to all beware of the boss's poisonous saliva as it deals damage. Then the protagonist attacked the boss, who said it was fast. The girls threw themselves at the boss. He asked in wonder if they were the strongest ones in the prison pulling out tongues. The boss scattered the girls with a clubbing blow. He said he was very disappointed. Immediately, the girls suffered very severe health damage. They had a hard time. The boss told the cheerful girls that they had done a very good job. He pounced to attack them. The main character pounced on the boss while the girls were still lying on the sidelines. Zhang told the boss that if he wanted to kill the girls, he should ask him how first. The guy thought the girl in red wasn't going to help them. They'd have a hard time without a magician. The boss told the guy that he had absolutely no chance against him. The boss prepared to attack the protagonist with a fiery strike. The boss was thrown aside with all his might. The girl asked cheerfully, "Does he think the protagonist is alone?" A Mengyu girl appeared. She said she sent him to the 18th circle of hell. The girl activated a special skill called God's Blessing. The boss asked angrily at the girl how dare she mess up his hair. Main yelled to the boss that he would look much better with a pumpkin on his head. She continued shooting. Zhang shouted to Meng that she had done a good job. At the same time, the girl in red stood there and did nothing. The protagonist commanded his demon blade to switch. The girl in red thought that if she didn't do something, it would be too late. Suddenly, the protagonist fell to the ground without finishing his attack. Leng asked surprised at what had happened. Zheng was lying on the ground, and something was binding his leg. The protagonist wondered why the girl in red was using her power against him. The demon liked the girl in red. He even thought about buying her tea when he killed his enemies. The protagonist shouted excitedly for Xiao Luo to keep an eye on the mage girl. Meng shouted angrily that the mage girl had ruined their opportunities to kill the boss. At this time, the blessing of the god of death had expired. At the same time, the mage girl attacked her opponent with her sword, and she was able to dodge. Zhang realized that the mage girl was flying away from the battlefield to attack them from a distance. He had to hurry up and stun the boss. At this time, someone suddenly attacked the boss from behind very hard in the back. The boss was surprised and turned around but didn't expect anyone to be able to get to him. Main said that it was the Len girl who attacked the boss with stealth skills. The boss was very surprised and angry. At the same moment, the Flax attacked him again, causing a lot of health damage. Immediately, the boss began to weaken. He could no longer defend himself from the attack. Just then, the girl thought that the skill from the assassin was very much terrifying. The mage girl decided to use her powerful spell called Thunderclap. The spell struck the linen girl with lightning and she fell to the ground. After that, the linen girl's invisibility mode was cancelled due to the attack. After that, the main character's companions started attacking the girl mage. The guy picked up the linen girl and asked her how she was feeling. The girl replied that her skill had been interrupted. The demon thought to himself who, thanks to the mage girl, had a chance to catch his breath. The boss told the opponents that they are worthy and strong opponents. The boss added that now the nightmare would begin for the enemies. He took one thing the emperor gave him. After taking the pill, the boss's body began to change drastically. The boss's level rose sharply from 25th to 28th. He had an increase in strength. Zhang said that boss can use medicine to improve his power. He said he wanted to do that too. The size of the boss increased. He shouted that the linen had hurt him very badly. The protagonist commanded the demon sword to activate. The boss, without any difficulty, knocked the protagonist aside. The guy realized that the sword was not working in full because of the difference in level. The girls followed the protagonist with excitement. Meng called out to the guy fearfully. The boss grabbed the flax and carrying it in his hands, he turned to the other two girls. Then the boss threw a linen towards the protagonist and beat him up. He suggested we all play together. The main character ended up on the ground in a semi-conscious state surrounded by girls. Then the boss angrily shouted that this was the power he wanted. He shouted that all his enemies would die at his hands. The magician girl was surprised to hear her boss's words. She realized that the NPC could not have said such a thing. The demon yelled at the mage girl that she was the one who messed up his hair. The boss promised angrily to Magoo girl that he would turn her into a flapjack. The mage girl was very frightened. She couldn't resist. The girl even closed her eyes in fear. She realized that she could not save herself. The boss kept attacking the protagonist and his girlfriends as well. Boss was able to successfully hit Zhang. The man's health level decreased. The protagonist attacked the boss with a stern blade. He realized that the demon was completely unbreakable. The mage girl told the protagonist that the demon's skin had been strengthened. She can help the protagonist, but she needs some time. Zhang replied that he can't buy any more time. The Xiaoluo girl shouted boldly to her friends that she would help them. The boss shouted at the girl that he would kill her with one finger. Zhang told Xiaoluo not to be stupid. The protagonist's vitals were dropping, and he yelled at Xiaolui that she didn't have time to take care of others. Xiaoluo's girlfriend said confidently that she could totally handle it. The protagonist had protected her many times, and now she wanted to protect him. The girl activated the exclusive skill, began activating 10,000 copies. After activation of the skill, the user's appearance will change to that of the goddess of war. As a result, there were a huge number of copies of Xiaoluo girl around the boss. The girls started attacking the boss and yelled at him not to look down on the female players. The girls all rushed to the attack. They shouted that they had to chop the boss into pieces. The boss began to fight off the attacking girls. He yelled for them to get lost. All the defeats from the girls' spears were felt by Xiaoluo's original body. Xiaoluo's life expectancy was dropping. She was getting worse and worse. The protagonist called out to Xiaoluo. At this time, the girl mage started casting spells on his sword. The boss shouted happily that he had finally found the original and punched Xiaoluo. Man-girl shouted that she didn't care even if she spent all her money. She sold the equipment and activated the exclusive skill blessing of the god of death. At which time the boss angrily shouted to the girl that he would no longer be affected by her trick. The demon approached Xiaoluo and said that he would cook her in meat sauce and eat her first. At this time, all the copies were destroyed, and the effect of the skill was ending. The Xiaoluo girl was running out of life expectancy. She could no longer resist. At that moment, the mage girl received a message that the weapon reinforcement was completed. The girl watched as the protagonist continued to fight the boss to no avail. The boss's vitality rate continued to drop gradually. The boss turned around and told the protagonist that he was very impatient, and he was going to kill him now. As your dragon armor skill activation began, Zhen shouted to the boss that the day of his death had come. The boss was surprised that the guy was hiding his abilities to use them only now. Zhang said that was not all. The protagonist started activating a skill called Bloodlust. The boss got scared. The mage girl was surprised that the protagonist still tolerated for the sake of getting a weapon. The mage girl pondered and decided that the protagonist really was a gaming genius. Zhang attacked the boss. After the final blow, the boss lost his entire life level. The boss finally yelled at the protagonist for being a devil. The main girl shouted very happily that they had finally won. The girls started coming up to the main character and saying that they had finally won. The girl Zero Demon reported to the Emperor that the top 5 players had gone down to the 2nd floor. The Emperor said angrily that King Yaksha can't even stop a few hooligans. The Emperor commanded his subordinates to inform the 3 that it was past time to deal with the protagonist. The system commands that the top 5 players go to a level 2 prison. The protagonist, along with other players, was teleported to the point of emergence. Zhang said to himself that each level starts with a village. Meng asked Xiao Luo if she had bought back the supplies. The girl said yes. The main character looked around and was surprised that there was no one around. Len added that there were no players or even NPCs. The players approached the huge door and noticed that it was locked. Man asked if there was a hidden quest to be completed in the village. The main character said there should be an NPC to guide him. That's when something hit him from behind. A girl mage came over. She asked the protagonist if he was okay. Zhang said he was fine. Suddenly, laughter sounded from outside. The magician girl pointed out where the sound was coming from. Nearby, various players were having fun in the tavern. One demon said that the prison of torn tongues had already been sealed and would be easier for them. The protagonist opened the window and said everyone was here. The demon was very surprised. The protagonist asked the characters how they were going to get out of here. The demon asked the players in surprise if they had gotten out of the prison of ripped out tongues. The demon welcomed the guests to the new prison. He called himself a guide to the beginning lands under the name Knowing Everything. The protagonist asked the guide if he could open the gate. The guide replied that he could, but the rules required that the guests exchange their entrance for the treasure. The demon thought to himself that there was no news from the Ghost Emperor yet, so he would deal with the guests first. The protagonist said he was going to look for his unwanted treasure. Zhang took out a pink ball from his pocket and said he still hadn't figured out how to use it. Suddenly, the balloon burst apart and a spider girl appeared from inside. The main character was very surprised he didn't expect to see a spider girl here. Xiao Luo menacingly asked the guy where he got that fox werewolf. Zhang explained that there was a spider girl next to him. The guide told the protagonist that he had already gained the favor of the Underworld. He promised to open the gate in exchange for the spider girl. The main character said he'd give the guide something else. He thought Spider Girl wasn't so bad. The conductor angrily told the main character that he wanted the Spider Girl. Various characters gathered around the guide. The know-it-all said that things could be different. The protagonist and his girls attacked and beat up the conductor and his characters. Zhang told the guide to do his job well and not to be a robber. The know-it-all thanked the guy for the lesson. The protagonist told his friends to come with him on the ground with the battered characters left behind. In farewell, Zhang asked the guide how he should proceed. He replied that he had a mission for the protagonist. The guide told the guy he had to tame the Spider Girl. Jan was surprised, and the Spider Girl said she didn't want to. The main character looked cheerfully at the Spider Girl. She seemed nice to him. Spider Girl cheerfully replied to the main character to get him off her back. The main character was surprised because he just slapped the Spider Girl and she fell to her knees in front of him. The guide thought to himself that different dark pets have different personalities. If the spanking didn't work, the whole body would have to be hit in different places. The Xiao Luo girl drew her sword and shouted threateningly, but she would kill the Spider Girl and sacrifice her to the heavens. Her friends started to calm her down. The guide said they're gonna need that Spider Woman a lot more. The guide said that in the prison of Scissors, there is a Stygian abyss. Only a spirit spider can descend to explore it, where rare treasures like fire beads can be collected. Beads can be used to forge and upgrade firearms. They can also be used to buy a prairie cloak. The guide asked Xiao Luo if she had the flying phoenix crown on her body. If the girl collected one divine suit, she could increase her combat power. Zhang asked the guide how he knew that the girl had the flying phoenix crown on her body. The guide said if he knew absolutely everything and could find out everything just by looking. The protagonist says they're going to the Stygian abyss. Guide the elderly well on their way. The guide noticed that the protagonist has an aura of death on his body. That means he's going to die soon. The protagonist was walking along with his companions. The mage girl asked what the Night King meant by what he said before he died. The mage girl asked what the secret of the game was. The protagonist replied that he would tell the truth now. Zhang told his companions judiciously that the game was actually hell. Suddenly, the protagonist began to fly upwards, pulled by his arm bracelets. Then very quickly, the guy flew off and plopped down somewhere in the thicket of the forest among the trees. The protagonist was lying on the ground and felt a strong burning sensation in his ass. Zhang saw two bracelet girls standing in front of him. They asked if he wanted to reveal his secret. The girl in white and the girl in black were standing there looking very intently at the guy. The girl in black said the guy should tell her before she interrogated him. She asked how Jang knew all the secrets. The guy asked the girl if she had been sent here by the little king of hell. The girl in black demanded the guy answer her question. The girl in white said there was something wrong with the main character. Jang said that he felt weaker and weaker after he went to the second-floor prison. He asked the girls if they really did it. The girl in black said they wouldn't do such a dirty deed. The girl in white said that the Night King had cursed Jang with the curse of loss of health before he died. The girl in white said she was about to break the curse on the guy. The main character's vitals were dropping. The girl in white got excited and yelled at the protagonist to wake up. Zhang decided he was dead so he could continue working on the scissor prison manual. Here the protagonist woke up and saw a mage in white robes above him. Immediately beside him stood another mage in bright pink robes as well. Zhang noticed a pale mage standing across from him and held out his hand to him. The protagonist felt completely bound and constrained. The Lord of Hell couldn't understand what was happening to him now. The Emperor cheerfully said that the King of Hell was about to finally die. The protagonist hung shackled, unable to move as he was held down by the mages. The Overlord thought that if the Ghost Emperor confronted the little King of Hell, then it was a rebellion. A maid suddenly appeared and shouted for the Ghost Emperors not to touch the protagonist. The Ghost Emperor shouted menacingly at the girl not to dare touch him. The Ghost Emperor attacked the girl at once and she fell down. The protagonist was able to partially free himself. He shouted menacingly to his rivals what they had done. The Ghost Emperor was surprised that the protagonist could still resist after the end of the pharmacy. The Lord shouted that he was not so easy to capture. The Ghost Emperor shouted that the Overlord could not be allowed to break through the formation. He urged the others to increase the blood sacrifice. The mages followed the instruction from the Ghost Emperor and increased the sacrifices. The Lord marveled that the mages around him were amplifying the spell with their blood. The Ghost Emperor shouted that they should definitely make a blood sacrifice and seal the Overlord even if you had to give up 100 years of their lives. The Ghost Emperor has informed that all mages may die at the hands of the protagonist. The Lord felt how he could not move and was beginning to burn completely. Suddenly the Overlord felt like he was in another world. Someone had told him that they had finally met. Zhang looked across the street and saw the Overlord. The Lord explained that the protagonist could enter his body with his soul. Zhang was very much surprised. He didn't understand how the two of them could be together in this place. Lord explained that they were in his spiritual sea. He also added that if Zhang had not suddenly appeared, the Lord would have been sealed already. Zhang asked the Overlord why the Ghost Emperors wanted to kill him, since they were supposed to obey him. The Lord of Hell replied that the four did not want to obey his orders. A couple years ago, the Overlord himself was just a Ghost Emperor. Above him was a Supreme Lord of Hell named Fengdu. The stability of Hell was threatened by the shortage of dead souls. Fengdu appreciated the future Overlord's talent and put him in control of Hell. It was the Overlord who created a computer game to absorb the player's energy and feed Hell. Last year, Emperor Fengdu died. After that, the Ghost Emperors started plundering the Yang energy. The Lord was against it because it upset the balance between the Yin and Yang worlds. Zhang said that without Fengdu's support, it was impossible to conquer the four emperors. The boy asked the Overlord why he was in his body every time he died in the game. The Overlord explained that perhaps during the beta testing of the game, the characters of the protagonist and the Overlord himself coincided. When the Overlord found out the protagonist had seen his tapes, he sent a black girl and a white girl after him. Zhang asked with surprise at the Overlord's help in the current situation. The Overlord asked the protagonist to protect his men and the players in the game. Zhang said he could do it all. The Overlord said that the guy could have his abilities since they have the same characteristics. Then the Overlord said that he would give the head hero his memories. The Overlord aimed a lightning bolt at the main character's head. It was memories being passed on. The protagonist felt as if lightning was coursing through his entire body. The Lord told the guy that when he came back to find Feng Ying, she must have a very important key. The protagonist's body was completely affected through flashbacks. Gradually, Zhang began to return to the reality where he had been restrained by the magicians. The protagonist returned fully to the Overlord's body. He was already much stronger. The Emperor was surprised and very frightened that the Overlord had already left. The Emperor thought the Overlord wanted to kill them all right now. The Emperor said the King of Hell is very strong and his formation can't hold it. The Lord summoned the god of the Underworld to rescue the servant girl. She must have had something important with her. The Emperor commanded menacingly for his accomplices to seize the girl. One of the mages shouted that they were too late since the girl had teleported away. The Emperor has ordered the mages to seal the Overlord while the god of the Underworld is still absent. At this time, the Overlord hung completely still and restrained in the air. The Emperor couldn't understand why the Lord sacrificed himself to save the servant girl. He couldn't understand what she was holding. The mage in pink said that after they solve the problem with the King of Hell, they will shut down the game. Because of this, players will not be able to go from online to offline. The Emperor was looking for a servant girl he thought had taken the server's internal key. The Emperor was running around in different rooms. He couldn't find what he needed. The Emperor thought that the King of Hell had already put a key on the girl, and they had all been tricked. He didn't notice the two girls flying up behind him. Suddenly, something very much surprised the Emperor. He turned around. At the same time, two servants of the Lord of Hell were beside the Emperor. Immediately, the Emperor grabbed the girls before they could attack him. The mage suggested that the Emperor ask the girls where the maid had gone. The girl angrily replied to the Emperor that she knew nothing at all. Another servant girl angrily shouted to the Emperor that he would never find Feng Ying. The Emperor said confidently in reply that the maid would come to him herself. At the same time, the protagonist returned to the Underworld. The guy's soul was returned by the god of the Underworld. He didn't know where Feng Ying had disappeared to. This maid will be needed by the four Ghost Emperors if they want to shut down the game. Zheng must get ahead of them. As the guy was running down the street, he saw two girls appear in front of him. Zhen noticed the two girls in white and black getting their outfits back. The girl in black put the guy in chains and said she would take him straight to his highness. The protagonist responded that girls make trouble for him. Suddenly, a great power appeared inside the protagonist and broke the chains. After that, Zhang used magic to throw the girls far away from him. After activating the skill, the main character turned into a huge warrior. The girl in white said the guy used a defense technique called an underground god. The girl asked the protagonist how he got such a technique. Zhang Xiao told the girls about the sacrifice of the little king of hell. The girl in white was astonished. The girl in black didn't understand how the emperors dared to do such a thing. Zhang shouted to the girls that he needed their help. The girls replied that they would help him. Both girls said they'd do absolutely anything you need them to do. The main character told the girls to transform. They'll have to keep their cool for now. Then the girls said they would fulfill everything they started to undress. The protagonist thought he liked girls taking off their clothes before turning. Zhang got yin and yang bracelets, at which time the protagonist's companions were standing near a great infernal abyss. Xiao Luo said, "It's a couple thousand meters deep. There's not even a place to anchor. They'll have trouble getting down." The magician girl said the bottom was so hot she'd burn up before she got to the bottom. Man's girlfriend said she's still waiting for the main character to come back. She doesn't know where he disappeared to. At which time a huge pink lightning bolt descended from the sky and brought the main character with it. Zhang said he couldn't find his girls anywhere, and finally found them. The mage girl suspiciously asked the protagonist why he flew away. The main character said something very serious happened while he was away and decided to tell the girls. Zhang stood beside his companions and told them everything in sequence. The mage girl was very surprised at what she heard. She couldn't believe it was possible. Zhang explained that they were not in a game, but in a real event, and if they were not careful, they would die. He asked the girls to leave the game and not come back. The girls looked excitedly at the protagonist. Len asked what the guy was going to do. Zhang said that the King of Hell saved his life and entrusted him with an important mission. He will stay in the game and fight. At this time, the Xiao Luo girl excitedly walked up close to the main character. The girl said she got weaker every time she left the game. She added that she would stay with Zhao. Main said they can't hide if the four Ghost Emperors want to destroy the world. Len added that they will stay and fight. Main said cheerfully that the game was getting more and more interesting. She added that the guy couldn't trick them into leaving. Xiao Luo told the protagonist that she would always be his first mate. Len added that they can definitely develop steadily and win. The main character was very happy to have his girls standing around him. The mage girl watched them from the side. The mage girl said she was seeing a bunch of crazy people. Man was outraged because of the way the girl called them. The mage girl then said that the protagonist and his companions could not win without reinforcements. The protagonist was very surprised he called a girl mage named Bao. The mage girl said she didn't want to see the players killed. She added that they're together now. The main character told his girlfriends cheerfully that they were all staying. Zhang held hands with the girls and said amicably that they would all win. Suddenly, the mage girl was distracted. She heard some very suspicious noise. Xiao Luo heard a noise coming from the ravine. Meng said there was a chasm below, and she didn't know what was happening. The protagonist knew there shouldn't be monsters in the abyss, and he didn't realize what was happening.